When the business of this House was started at 1:30 p.m., we were at resolutions. Are there any further resolutions? The chair recognizes the honorable member for Mount Moriah.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Madam Deputy, I stand in this honorable chambers to move the following resolution. Whereas John Canoe is recognized as a cornerstone of Bahamian culture, identity, heritage, creativity, resilience, and unity amongst the Bahamian people. And in 2023, UNESCO officially inscribed John Canoe as the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, thereby solidifying its global significance and providing a platform for greater international visibility. Whereas the government of the Bahamas has introduced the National John Canoe Authority of the Bahamas Act to formalize the governance, regularization, and management of John Canoe and a national institution. And whereas the proposed act seeks to establish a statutory body with oversight for John Canoe parades, funding, cultural preservation, and stakeholders' collaboration across all islands. And whereas concerns have been expressed by various stakeholders regarding the potential impact of the current position of this act on community participation, freedom, financial transparency, and representation amongst John Canoe groups. Be it resolved that the members assembled for the third session of the National Youth Parliament of the Bahamas shall engage in open discussion on the implementation of the National John Canoe Authority of the Bahamas Act in its current form, considering its potential impact on the future of John Canoe as both a cultural and national treasure. Madam Deputy, before I begin, I want to pause and pay respect to my colleague, the Honorable Member of Babine and Grantstown, who was not able to be with us in the second session, but we are wishing him a speedy recovery, and we hope that he gets better real soon. Madam Deputy, it is my privilege to stand once again in this honorable House on behalf of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and by extension, the people of the greatest constituency in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Mount Moriah. Foxtail, keep your mouth closed over there. We gather here today not simply to discuss a piece of legislation, not merely to debate the language of a resolution, but to defend something far greater: our identity, our soul, our heritage. We gather here today for John Canoe. John Canoe is not an institution created in a boardroom. It is not the product of any government ministry or authority. John Canoe was born in the yards, in the shacks, in the back streets of the over-the-hill communities. It was carried on the backs of our ancestors who celebrated freedom in the only way they could, through rhyme and rhythm, color, and unstoppable spirit. John Canoe is the heartbeat of the Bahamian people, and anything that touches the heritage must be handled with care, respect, and fairness. Yet today, we face a resolution and a bill that threatens to place our national treasure under a centralized authority, one that risks the hands of the people who built it, lived it, and has preserved it for all these years. It is a bill that suggests that the government, rather than the practitioners, know what is best for this tradition, and this is the direction we cannot accept. Let me be clear. John Canoe does not need to be rescued. I'm going to repeat it again. John Canoe does not need to be rescued. John Canoe does not need to be taken over. John Canoe needs to be respected, and it needs to be restored. What John Canoe is today, our Boxing Day parades, our New Year's Day parades, the artistry, the innovation that came from Bahamians, from men and women who spent sleepless nights pasting crepe paper, from the brass musicians breathing life into their music, from the drummers who turned goatskin into thunder. These are the people who have governed Junkanoo for generations, not through legislation, but through passion, through sacrifice, and through love. So how can we now look at these culture bearers, the backbone of this art form, and say that their authority should be replaced by a board? How can we tell them that the government must now formalize what they have organized well for decades? How can we endorse a bill that risks turning our living culture into a bureaucratic machine? We must not. The Bahamian people must remain the stewards of Junkanoo. Its governance must come from the bottom up, not the top down. Any authority that oversees Junkanoo must be rooted in the Junkanoo community itself, its leaders, its craftsmen, its musicians, its youth, its historians, and its visionaries. This is not a call for chaos and resistance without reason. Let me make that abundantly clear. This is not a call for chaos or resistance without reason. We all understand the need for structure, fairness, transparency, and accountability. But structure must never come at the expense of sovereignty. Transparency must never replace participation. Accountability must never erase tradition. If we want to truly support Junkanoo, then let us empower those who make it possible. Let us invest directly into the groups like we do already. Let us fund the youth programs, strengthen the music programs in our schools, develop the small businesses that provide materials, and expand the culture economy built around this art form. Let us create systems that enhance Junkanoo, not control it. We cannot allow any bill, any authority, or any administration to redefine what Junkanoo is or who it belongs to, because Junkanoo has already been defined by our ancestors, by our communities, by the rhythm and rhyme of the drums and the brilliance of our colors. Junkanoo is ours, and while governments may change, Junkanoo endures, because it lives in the spirits of the Bahamian people. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, I must pause because when I came into the chambers this morning, I saw the headlines in the newspaper, and I realized that major Junkanoo groups in the country decided to drop out of the parades. This is a challenge, Madam Deputy. So today, we raise our voices not in defiance, but in protection. We stand not against progress, but against the idea that progress requires removing Junkanoo from its rightful caretakers. We speak not as partisans, not as opponents, but as Bahamians united in pride, memory, and identity. Let this message be clear. Junkanoo belongs to the Bahamian people. It must be governed by the Bahamian people, and any authority established must reflect that truth, not replace it. Let us honor our past. Let us define our culture. Let us protect our future. Thank you, Madam Deputy. May God bless you, and may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you so much for Mount Moriah. Is there a seconder? The chair recognizes the honorable member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise to second the resolution. Madam Speaker, it is my pleasure to stand once again to represent the wonderful people of West Grand Bahama and Bimini. And like my colleague mentioned, we read the newspaper this morning, and we see how the Junkanoo groups decided that they will not participate. So I want to not only talk to the members here in Parliament, but also the groups. And I want to remind my honorable colleague that the members of this Parliament are also Bahamian. So no matter what bill passes through here, it still will be judged by Bahamians. Madam Deputy Speaker, when we think Junkanoo, we think Bahamas. But not only Bahamas, Bahamian. Junkanoo has been around even before our nation gained independence. It is more than just a festival of music, color, and dance. It is the heartbeat of our people, the rhythm of our resilience, and the living expression of our unity. This is who we are. This is what we are. Our culture and heritage are not just pieces of art or mere tradition. They are living, breathing testaments of the Bahamian spirit, recognized and idolized worldwide. In 2023, the world itself acknowledged this truth when UNESCO inscribed Junkanoo onto the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This honor did not just celebrate our past, it called upon us to protect our future. As our government continues to strive to elevate the Bahamas on the global stage, the introduction of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act must not be viewed as a threat to our culture, but rather as a safeguard. It seeks not to take away from Junkanoo or make it more harder to participate, but to establish a formal, transparent, and accountable framework to ensure that this national treasure continues to thrive for generations to come. When we turn to Section 4, Subsection 1, Subsection A of the Act, it explicitly sets out the core functions to facilitate, preserve, manage, and continue to develop Junkanoo as a viable national, cultural, and commercial enterprise. Madam Deputy, these words are deliberate and meaningful. To facilitate, to preserve, to manage, to develop. Nowhere does it imply restriction, exclusion, or harm. Rather, it reaffirms a commitment, a promise to uplift and strengthen what we already hold dear. Madam Deputy Speaker, the recognition by UNESCO was not granted lightly. It came with the responsibility to maintain the integrity and authenticity of Junkanoo. And with responsibility comes structure. For if we are to preserve what is sacred, we must also be organized, accountable, and proactive. Culture without structure can fade. Heritage without protection can be lost. Turning to Section 5, Subsection 1 of the bill, the Act provides that the authority shall consist of 15 persons, appointed by the minister, from persons who have demonstrated an interest in the cultural or commercial aspects of Junkanoo. This provision, Madam Speaker, ensures that the authority will consist of those who live and breathe Junkanoo, practitioners, musicians, artists, historians, and cultural leaders, those whose passion and experience are rooted in the very soul of the movement. Madam Deputy Speaker, the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act is an opportunity to preserve our past, empower our present, and protect our future. Let us not view it with fear, but with foresight. Let us remember that Junkanoo is not merely a parade, it is a proclamation of who we are as Bahamians. Therefore, as we discuss this bill, let us do so in the spirit of unity, creativity, and progress. Let us ensure that Junkanoo, our national heartbeat, continues to echo proudly through the streets of Bay Street, through the streets of downtown Freeport and West End, through every family island, and across the world. Because when the drums beat and the cowbells ring, they tell one story, the story of a people who refuse to let their culture fade. And as long as there is breath in Bahamian lungs and rhythm in Bahamian hearts, Junkanoo will live on. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas Junkanoo is recognized as a cornerstone of Bahamian cultural identity, heritage, creativity, resilience, and unity amongst the Bahamian people. And in 2023, UNESCO officially inscribed Junkanoo on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, thereby solidifying its global significance and providing a platform for greater international visibility. Whereas the government of the Bahamas has introduced the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act to formalize the governance, regulation, and management of Junkanoo as a national institution. And whereas the proposed act seeks to establish a statutory body with oversight for Junkanoo parades, funding, cultural preservation, and stakeholder collaboration across all islands. And whereas concerns have been expressed by various stakeholders regarding the potential impact of the current iteration of this act on community participation, artistic freedom, financial transparency, and equitable representation among Junkanoo groups. Be it resolved that the members assembled for this third session of the National Youth Parliament of the Bahamas shall engage in open discussion on the implementation of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act in its current iteration, considering its potential impact on the future of Junkanoo as both a cultural and national treasure. As many? The chair recognizes the honorable member for Fox Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, before I begin, I would like to correct the good member of Mount Moriah by letting you know that the two greatest constituencies in the Commonwealth are Elizabeth, where I reside, and Fox Hill, who I'm representing today. Relax, relax. It's not your time yet. It's not your time yet. Junkanoo, the cultural phenomenon that shakes our streets every Boxing Day and New Year's morning, originates from John Canoe, an African tribal chief who demanded to celebrate with his people despite being brought to the West Indies as a slave. This national celebration is a kaleidoscope of sounds, colors, and energetic movements. Junkanoo has always been for the people and by the people, Madam Deputy. Born from the shocks, the heartbeat, and the lifeline of the Bahamian people. But like any heartbeat, Madam Deputy, when there's too much pressure constricting it, the beat gets slower and slower until it dies. This is why I am partially opposed to the implementation of this bill, as it has some parameters that can be concerning to the future of Junkanoo as we know it. So, the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025. This bill seeks to create a new statutory body that's intended purpose is to preserve all things Junkanoo, create a national Junkanoo fund, promote, modernize, and professionally manage Junkanoo. Now, don't get me wrong, all this sounds very good, you know. It would be remiss of me to not look at this bill with optimistic eyes and not see the good that its implementation could do for the Junkanoo community. For instance, the Act seeks to formally preserve Junkanoo as it supports research and exhibitions of Junkanoo art and music according to Section 4, subsection 1, Part C. It also seeks to create a National Junkanoo Authority Fund that finances the celebration through ticket sales, donations, and the Parliament's budget. It even looks to reward the artists, musicians, and designers with grants and scholarship according to Section 4, subsection 1, Part M. Creating an organization structure is outlined in Section 10, financial audits in Section 29, and economic growth in Section 4, subsection 1, Part I and K. All very good and promising things, but are we as a nation ready to deal with the negative consequences that may arise if we implement this bill? As outlined in Section 5, the minister appoints basically every member of the authority, which limits the independent nature of running Junkanoo and could make the authority subject to extreme political interference. And as seen by last year's Junkanoo season, we see that political interference can cause quite the uproar.
Yes, sir.
In Section 10, we see that there are over 15 subcommittees, all with their own chairman and structure. This staggering amount of subcommittees can slow down the decision-making process, turning the buzzing cultural process into a red tape situation. Also, creativity should not be legislated. Junkanoo should be led by those who pace, those who shake the cowbells, those who dance, not those who stamp official letters. Madam Deputy, do I believe that Junkanoo needs more structure? Yes, but I do not believe that it needs to be stripped away from the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence, because that is exactly what this bill seeks out to do. It seeks to wrestle control from an already established entity and reduce them to a smaller position of power. I mean, sure, the JCNP will still exist and will have a member as part of the authority, but how much power will that individual have? Will it be treated with the same respect as if the JCNP was still a major governing body? Yes, commercializing Junkanoo more can be good, but in my opinion, the Bahamas' Junkanoo is already world-renowned. During the season, those silver bleachers and balconies are filled with just as many tourists as there are Bahamians. Madam Deputy, I echo the sentiments of Mount Moriah and West Grantham and Bimini, as today's report shows the effects of this proposed bill on the Junkanoo groups. Madam Deputy Speaker, I believe in its current state that this bill should not be passed. Even though there are many good intentions within it, I think the consequences that are attached to those intentions could prove problematic in the long run. I believe the main problem is the authority becoming the sole handler of all things Junkanoo. Maybe if the bill was reworked or amended to where this authority was working directly alongside the JCMP, then taking over from it completely, then I would definitely be more inclined to stand by this bill. That way, all the positives that are very much present in this bill could be felt by the Junkanoo community. However, if implemented in its current form, it doesn't matter if you're a Saxon superstar, One Family, Roots, Genesis, Original Valley Boys, Way Forward, Way Back, Way Around, Forward, Upward, Onward, Together. It doesn't matter. There's a good chance that the celebration you and I love to participate in could be noticeably changed. Let's rework this bill so that both sides may have a fair say. May God continue to bless our cultural juggernaut, and may He continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
The way forward, the way backward. I know all of our Valley boys would appreciate that. Thank you, Fox Hill. As many. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Good afternoon, Madam Deputy and my fellow parliamentarians. It is a privilege to rise once again in this honorable place to represent the amazing constituency of St. Barnabas. Madam Deputy, Junkanoo is one of the most important aspects of Bahamian culture, an essential part of our history. The National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025 seeks to enhance the development of Junkanoo and explore Junkanoo as a commercial enterprise to help benefit all those who are involved in the Junkanoo industry. Madam Deputy, this act will also expedite the marketing and promotion of Junkanoo, which will improve the exposure of Junkanoo within the country, and most importantly, it will further the advertising of Junkanoo internationally. Madam Deputy, this bill allows Bahamians of all ages involved in Junkanoo further opportunities to develop and improve their craft. Madam Deputy, with the increase in globalization, it has brought the influence of foreign cultures into the Bahamas. Some young people today acknowledge and are more familiar with other foreign cultures than with Bahamian culture. And Madam Deputy, I believe that to be an absolute travesty. Madam Deputy, Bahamian culture must be preserved, protected, and promoted. Junkanoo is one of the most important components of Bahamian culture, and it is a large part of the Bahamian cultural identity. Madam Deputy, this bill seeks to ensure that Junkanoo is marketed and taught domestically as well as internationally in an effective manner. In addition to this, Madam Deputy, the bill has aspirations to strengthen the connection between Junkanoo and the tourism industry to further improve our tourism product. In conclusion, Madam Deputy, the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025 is not just another piece of legislation. It is a commitment to the Bahamian people and a pledge to our culture. It stands as a symbol of our commitment to the preservation of the rhythm, art, and creativity that define us as Bahamians by formalizing and promoting Junkanoo as both an art form and a commercial enterprise. We are empowering and encouraging Bahamians, uplifting our communities, and ensuring that future generations have a great understanding of Junkanoo and Bahamian culture. Madam Deputy, may God bless the Bahamian people, and may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you so much, St. Barnabas. As many, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Long Island.
Boy, be careful. Be careful.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Bills, bills, bills.
No, sir.
How much more can the government afford? If it is any industry that is self-sustaining, it is surely Junkanoo. How many more years until a net surplus is achieved or increased investment in deteriorating industries? Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise in full opposition of the moot. Be it resolved that there should be a bill published for the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act. Our culture is what will last if everything else crumbles. Colonization may take away resources and control governance, but one thing you cannot do is take away our culture. If you remove Junkanoo in the Bahamas, you remove its culture. The economics of Junkanoo will always be secure. Junkanoo does not need extra funding, government intervention, and protection from the Bahamian government to safeguard our culture and expand Junkanoo's cultural outreach. Two of the functions of the National Junkanoo Authority is found in Section 4, Subsection 4A and B. Subsection A and B states that the authority may acquire all interests and liabilities held by the National Junkanoo States and open bank accounts in the authority's name and prepare budgets for the management of the authority. While this sounds nice in theory, the national budget cannot take any more financial dents. On May 29, 2025, the Davis administration projected in Parliament that it will achieve a budget surplus of $75 million in the 2025-2026 fiscal year, which started on July 1st. If the government is trying to achieve this goal while trying to pass this bill, we will take 10 steps back in achieving a net surplus. Ever since this country has gained independence, there has never been a period where a net surplus was recorded. We always spend more money than we make. And we will choose to spend this money on money that we don't have on Junkanoo. The JCNP said its expectation, should the legislation pass as it is currently proposed, is that the Junkanooers would be paid by the government for performances, noting an expected annual budget of $45 million. If this is passed, that's $45 million that won't go to the underpaid essential workers and developing much needed infrastructure in this country. Madam Deputy, the constituents of Long Island and other family islands have been begging for upgraded airports, roads without craters, and clinics with sufficient medical supplies and staff. But apparently, money is always the issue. Government funding, however, is not the only issue I have with this bill, but also the government's intervention in this privatized cultural entity. While the National Junkanoo Authority Act may not intentionally seek to harm this cultural masterpiece in the Bahamas, the possibility for negative externalities cannot be dismissed. While this act may claim to safeguard and promote our culture, government intervention may create more dividing groups and include more political bias and unfair judgments. God forbid If this nation were to be colonized, if it is anything that a foreign nation cannot take away from us, it is our culture, Junkanoo. Junkanoo does not need a statutory body to continue to thrive in the national and global environment. Tourists will still come to visit. Foreign countries will still marvel at this cultural beauty, and our people will still dance on the streets of our island. Government intervention promotes elitism, creates dependencies, and harms minority groups. The complex nature of culture means that government efforts to control or direct it can produce unintended and unwanted consequences. Jeopardizing our main cultural component's survival and success is not a wise idea. Junkanoo will continue to thrive for centuries to come once we continue to pass down our love for it for all our children, as we have been doing for centuries. Junkanoo has existed long before this archipelago became a nation of its own. Therefore, if it is anything that will remain in this country, if everything else crumbles, it will be our culture. It will be Junkanoo. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
And thank you, Member for Long Island. As many? The chair recognizes the honorable member for North Abaco.
Madam Deputy Speaker, fellow youth parliamentarians, the audience in the gallery, and to all the Bahamians listening and watching across our islands, good afternoon. Madam Deputy Speaker, when the goatskin drums begin to beat, it calls to every Bahamian heart. It reminds us of who we are: creative, resilient, and proud people. Junkanoo is not simply a parade or performance. It is our living story, told through rhythm, color, and motion. It was born from struggle and sustained by unity. It belongs to all of us, from Grand Bahama in the north to Great Niagara in the south. And it is because I love and respect Junkanoo that I cannot support the National Junkanoo Authority Bill of the Bahamas 2025 as it stands. Madam Deputy Speaker, this bill, though presented to, open quote, facilitate, preserve, manage, and develop Junkanoo as a viable national, cultural, and commercial enterprise, end quote, close quote, as stated in clause 4.1a, risks doing the complete opposite. It centralizes control, decision-making, and even funding within New Providence under the oversight of a single authority headquarters in Nassau, clause 3.6. This bill established a 17-member authority appointed by the minister, clause 5.1. Yet most of these members are either government officials or representatives from Nassau-based organizations. Family islands are given a limited voice, only one seat, through the chairman of the Family Island Junkanoo Corporation, while 6 ex-officio members are tied to national institutions also based in the capital. Madam Deputy Speaker, that is not national inclusion. That is administrative concentration. The bill further claims to empower family islands through the creation of local Junkanoo committees under Clause 11. But when we look closely, these committees answer directly to the authority bill and, open quote, shall be financed from the funds of and accountable to the authority, close quote. In other words, family islands may participate but not lead. The power to make decisions, access funding, and shape policy remains centralized in Nassau. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is not empowerment, it is supervision. For too long, the brightest spotlight has shone on Bay Street, while the family islands create, build, and perform with little to no funding, few materials, and almost to no national attention. After hurricanes and hardships, communities like Abaco and Grand Bahama rebuilt Junkanoo with their bare hands. They stitched, they glued, they painted, and paraded with pride, proving that culture does not depend on capital, but on courage. Yet, this bill threatens to ignore their voices and replace their community spirit with governmental control. Even the financial structure, Clause 20, which established the National Junkanoo Authority Fund, places all resources under one central pool, distributed only through the authority. There is no guarantee of equitable funding or fair allocation across islands. The same hands that hold the drum also hold the pure strings. The establishment of a centralized authority may sound impressive, but what good is an authority if it does not truly empower all Bahamians? What good representation is it if it only exists on paper? Governance without inclusion is not progress, it is exclusion. Junkanoo has always thrived because it belongs to the people. It is a collaboration of artists, musicians, and families who pour their hearts in every performance. To place this tradition under one controlling body risks replacing creativity with control and freedom with formality. Culture cannot be managed like a company. It must be nurtured like a living flame, kept alive by the people who fuel it. I will say this again. It must be nurtured like a living flame, kept alive by people who fuel it. Madam Deputy Speaker, Junkanoo is not uniform, and it should never be. The beauty of this tradition lies in its diversity. The rush of Abaco, the beat of Andres, the style of Eleuthera, and the spirit of Ragged Island. Each adds something unique to our national identity. But when all authority and appointments are funded and centralized in Nassau, those differences begin to fade. That is not preservation. That is loss. If we truly wish to empower Junkanoo, we must empower the islands. We must strengthen independent local Junkanoo committees, not subcommittees that answer upward. We must provide equal access to funding, not central oversight. The law should lift local leaders and not overshadow them. Bahamians do not need to be told how to celebrate their culture. We need to be supported in doing so. We do not need the authority to define Junkanoo for us. When we define it ourselves every time we rush, every time we dance, every time we create. Madam Deputy Speaker, I do not stand here to reject the progress. I stand here to demand fairness. But I cannot lend my support to the National Junkanoo Bill. But I cannot lend my support to the National Junkanoo Bill. Junkanoo is the rhythm of every Bahamian heart. It beats our settlements, our schools, and our street. To honor Junkanoo is to empower them. Junkanoo is not New Providence. Junkanoo is the Bahamas. If this bill cannot reflect that truth, then it cannot claim to protect our heritage. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much, North Abaco. As many, we felt your passion. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Central and South Eleuthera.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, my fellow youth parliamentarians and fellow citizens of the Bahamas, good afternoon. As the 2024 Junior Minister of Tourism and Youth Member of Parliament for Central and South Eleuthera, I proudly serve my country and represent the hard-working Eleutherians. I would like to congratulate Ms. Saria Ingram, our new Junior Minister of Tourism. But I will always remain a proud ambassador of Bahamian tourism because it's always better in the Bahamas. For Junkanoo is more than a parade. It is the spirit of Bahamian life, a vibrant expression of freedom, creativity, and unity that connects us all. Madam Deputy Speaker, I wholeheartedly disagree with the moots. The implementation of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act. Junkanoo is a vital piece of Bahamian culture and history that sets us apart from other Caribbean countries and, by extension, the world. But there's more to Junkanoo than meets the naked eye. Through every costume displayed, every musical instrument played, and every banner created, it tells a story that connects us to our culture and displays the various legacies that were instilled onto the Bahamian people and culture. In 2023, the Bahamas was recognized internationally by UNESCO for its induction of Junkanoo into the representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This global recognition affirmed what Bahamians have always known, that Junkanoo is an enduring symbol of our strength, artistry, and pride. To preserve and strengthen this legacy, the government of the Bahamas introduced the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act. The purpose of this act is to establish a statutory body responsible for the governance, regulation, and management of Junkanoo. It seeks to provide structure, funding, and national coordination, ensuring that Junkanoo continues to thrive across all islands. However, Madam Deputy Speaker, this proposed legislation has sparked much discussion, and rightfully so. While supporters believe the authority will bring greater transparency, fairness, and sustainability to the Junkanoo movement, others fear that it may centralize power, limit community input, and reduce artistic freedom. We must remember that Junkanoo was born for the people. It was not created in Parliament or in an office. It was created in the streets through the sweat, rhythm, and creativity of Bahamians who turned their struggle into celebration. It lives through the dedication of cultural icons such as Mr. Daniel DaCosta of Governor's Harbor, a true legend of Bahamian artistry and community pride. Mr. DaCosta devoted his life to preserving and elevating Junkanoo, mentoring young Bahamians and instilling in them a deep pride for their culture. His craftsmanship, leadership, and passion transformed raw talent into timeless tradition. Through his hands, music, and mentorship, he reminded us that Junkanoo is not only a parade. He reminded us that it is a way of life, a source of identity, and a bond that unites us as the people. His legacy, Madam Deputy Speaker, and many others, calls upon us to protect Junkanoo's grassroots origins and to ensure that any authority formed under this act continues to honor the creativity and community that legends helped to build. Madam Deputy Speaker, I stand firm on the belief that such an institution must prioritize inclusivity, transparency, and equal representation. Every island, every group, and every Junkanooer, from Grand Bahama in the north to Inagua in the south, and every island, rock, and key in between deserves a seat at the table. This creativity is not stifled by government, and that young Bahamians continue to have a space to express their talent and cultural pride. Let us build a system that honors the past, supports the present, and inspires the future of Junkanoo for generations to come. In closing, Madam Deputy Speaker, Junkanoo belongs to the people of the Bahamas. It is our rhythm, our art, our story, and it must remain by the people, for the people, and for the love of the Bahamas. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for our Golden Isles.
Good afternoon, everyone. The bass of the goatskin drum that you can feel in your chest, the click of the cowbells, the shrill of the whistles, costumes, dances, music. This is what we think of when we hear the word Junkanoo. It is the cornerstone of Bahamian culture. It is the resilience of the Bahamian people and the creativity that flows through our veins. Visitors from far and wide have come to see the vibrant showcase of the Bahamas. A true testament to the importance of Junkanoo is it being declared an intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO in 2023. However, Madam Speaker, like many of my fellow colleagues, I disagree with this bill being passed in its current iteration. I'll start with the positives. The Junkanoo Bill 2025 establishes the National Junkanoo Committee, a statutory body tasked with guiding the Junkanoo's development across every island. This committee seeks to oversee parade licensing, adjudication standards, and to ensure that funding reaches community groups on every island. Under Clause 4, it empowers the committee to promote Junkanoo education in schools, collaborate with local councils, and to support the training of artists, musicians, and costume designers. This bill offers a vision where Junkanoo is not taught in our schools as a pastime, but as a profession. Appreciate it, thank you. It gives legal recognition to the institutions that have long operated in love and service, and it offers accountability and funding and protection for cultural property. Madam Speaker, honorable members, while this bill does have lots of very sensible ideas and positive claims, we cannot allow these few ideas to overshadow what lies beneath. Good ideas don't automatically translate into good legislation. We have seen the elaborate floats on Bay Street. Junkanoo production does not come cheap. The average group can spend up to $30,000 on supplies alone. $300 on supplies alone. Anyway, 3 with 5 zeros behind it. That's what I mean. Imagine if Junkanoo were to become a governmental event. That is seed funding, prize money, salaries and pensions for the National Junkanoo Committee members and the participants in Junkanoo, and more. And all of that will come under government spending. If this bill were to be passed, that is another cost that the Bahamas government and an extension the Bahamian people will have to allocate for. We can do so much more with the money that will be allocated such as improving family island infrastructure and developing it, and finding more ways to diversify the Bahamian economy. Madam Speaker, if you'll allow it, I'd like to highlight another issue that the bill has. Under Section 2, Clause 5, this proposed bill states that the members of this committee will be appointed by the minister. No public voting, no nomination or application, no interview, but they're hand-selected. This way of representation contradicts the aim of wanting all islands to be heard, especially when 15 of the 17 proposed committee members are Nassau-centric. Madam Speaker, this is the Bahamas. It opens doors for favoritism, political appointments, and personal agendas. How can we talk about empowering communities when the very body meant to represent them can be handpicked behind closed doors? Madam Speaker, Junkanoo has existed for centuries. It has existed before the ministries, before the committees, before the sponsorships and corporations, and it will exist long after. It has thrived off of dedicated Bahamians, families, churches, and communities who have spent months fundraising and preparing. Even now, Junkanoo continues to thrive. Can it be better? Of course it can. But that is not for the government or private companies alone to completely interfere with, but for the Bahamian people to come together and decide. I personally believe that 3 major production parades a year are enough. But if a group wanted to get together and have a rush out, allow them to. Why are we policing our culture? I understand the intent of this bill, don't get me wrong. We all want to preserve Junkanoo. We all want better organization. We all want more funding, fairer judging. But this bill, in its current form, puts too much control in too few hands. This bill promises structure, but what Junkanoo needs is support, not control. Instead of creating another statutory body, why not strengthen the existing community councils? Why not create grants that go directly to groups rather than through another layer of administration? Why not invest in affordable materials, training programs, and cultural spaces without turning our heritage into a government department? Since when did Junkanoo need to be managed like a company? Since when is something born out of freedom, rebellion, and resilience needs to be turned into a corporate enterprise? This bill talks about seed money, marketing strategies, and subsidiaries, but not community ownership. When power is placed in the hands of a corporate body, one answerable only to the minister, what happens to the voices of the builders, the drummers, the seamstresses and the brass players who have built Junkanoo from the ground up. Let us not forget that our culture is our soft power. It is how the world sees us. It is how investors connect with us. It is how our children understand who they are. By allowing this bill to pass in its current iteration, we risk turning our most organic, community-driven expression into a government production, bound by paperwork, bureaucracy, and politics. And while Junkanoo is our greatest national treasure, I don't think it needs to be the crown jewel on our government's agenda, not when there are other parts of our nation that are still waiting to shine. Let Junkanoo remain what it's always been, of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. We would like to acknowledge the member for Yamacraw, the Honorable Zane Lightburn. Let's welcome him. We thank you so much for joining us in our Youth Parliament. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Tall Pines.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Good afternoon, Madam Deputy, fellow parliamentarians, and members of the gallery. I rise once again as the proud representative for the illustrious constituency of Tall Pines, which is both an honor and a privilege. Never fear, the National Junkanoo Authority is here. Madam Deputy Speaker, Junkanoo is merely a parade. It's more than just the sound of cowbells ringing or the way crepe paper glides down Bay Street. It conveys the story of our independence, strength, and creativity. So as we discuss the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act today, we are debating how to maintain and preserve the spirit of our country. Madam Deputy, Junkanoo has long been a symbol of Bahamian identity, a party founded on hard labor and achievement. When UNESCO formally added Junkanoo to the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2023, it was more than just an artistic honor. It was a confirmation of our people, rhythm, and culture all over the world. We now have a holy duty to conserve, manage, and promote Junkanoo in a way that honors its history while also ensuring its future. Madam Deputy, the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025 seeks to formalize Junkanoo management and expansion as a cultural and business activity. It proposes establishing a National Junkanoo Authority, a government organization in charge of regulating Junkanoo parades, donating money, stimulating research, and ensuring that our culture thrives on all of the islands. Clause 4 of the bill clearly defines the authority's duties: to support Junkanoo's continued growth as a cultural and business activity, make Junkanoo a national holiday and a tourism draw, find solutions to keep Junkanooers, artists, and craftspeople financially secure. The Junkanoo Authority Bill also recommends that we collaborate with UNESCO and other international organizations to conserve our heritage. Madam Deputy Speaker, these are commendable and necessary aims. For too long, 21 years to be exact, Junkanoo has relied on inconsistent support and limited financial structure. Where is the progress? Setting up this authority could provide our Junkanoo community with the stability and respect it deserves. Madam Deputy Speaker, if properly implemented, this bill has the potential to bring in a new age for Bahamian culture. Imagine a Bahamas where Junkanoo artists can receive grants and employment training, young people can learn about Junkanoo art and commerce, and family islands receive equal funding and assistance with their parades. The authority also allows persons from various countries to work together. This fosters Bahamian innovation by hosting exhibitions and cultural exchanges. These projects have the potential to transform our culture into a long-term business that we not only celebrate, but also live by. In addition, the bill establishes a National Junkanoo Authority Fund to ensure the funds are managed in an open and accountable manner. Part 4 of the bill goes into greater detail concerning this fund. which will be made up of funds set aside by Parliament as well as funds raised through ticket sales, sponsorship, and donations. This can provide financial security for Junkanoo organizations across the country. Madam Deputy Speaker, even though I believe the objective of this act is excellent, and I disagree with my fellow parliamentarians who believe otherwise, I can still openly say we must listen to what the individuals it is intended to help have to say. People with a vested interest have legitimate concerns. Many Junkanooers are concerned that the authority's current structure will increase red tape rather than give them more control. They are concerned that a central authority may accidentally restrict community participation and artistic expression, transforming a people's procession into a government-run spectacle. Clause 5 of the bill states that the authority will have 17 members, the majority of whom will be appointed by the minister. Government monitoring is necessary, but it must be equitable. The artists, builders, drummers, and dancers that bring Junkanoo to life own it. They must contribute to leadership rather than just simply speaking. There are still doubts about financial openness, how money will be distributed, and whether family island groups will receive equitable assistance. The best part of Junkanoo is how diverse it is. Each island has its own rhythm, color, and heartbeat. This law should protect diversity rather than make it the same for everyone. Madam Deputy Speaker, we need to strike a balance between progress and preservation, structure and freedom. We need to modernize Junkanoo while maintaining its spirit. Therefore, this assembly must urge the following: leadership that involves everyone, ensuring that Junkanoo leaders, artists, and cultural historians participate in the authority's decision-making process. Fairness and transparency, make sure that there are clear guidelines for how money is distributed so that no one gains an undue advantage. And 3, support Junior Junkanoo by donating money to youth training programs that teach them skills and customs. Madam Deputy Speaker, Junkanoo is more than simply a parade. It is a legacy, a lifetime, and a love letter from the Bahamian people to the rest of the globe. The National Junkanoo Authority Act can help keep this culture alive, but it must do so in a way that is fair, open, and hospitable to all. Let us make Junkanoo stronger without losing its soul. Let us ensure that every drumbeat, dancer, and costume embodies what Junkanoo has always represented: the Bahamian people's creativity, pride, and unity. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Angliston.
This is a tough one. We'll see about that. Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise today once again as the proud representative of the people of Angliston, a community rooted in resilience, rhythm, and raw creativity. When you walk through Angliston, you don't just see people, you feel the spirit. You hear the rhythm of Junkanoo in the laughter of our children, in the steps of our elders, in the pulse of we Bahamians. Junkanoo is not just a parade, it is our nation's heartbeat. It is artistry, ancestry, and identity all wrapped up in one vibrant explosion of color and sound. And that is why, Madam Deputy Speaker, I stand in support of the National Junkanoo Authority Act, because I believe in structure and in fairness and in moving our culture forward. But I also believe in listening, because when culture evolves, it must do so with the people who built it.
Yes.
There is a lot of controversy regarding this same initiative. I'm not going to get too deep. But we need to get rid of this black crab mentality. Instead of building our own... Instead of building our own tables, why can't we all sit around the same table? Why do we have problems inviting others to our table? Let us collaborate. Let us use our diverse ideas and experiences to make our culture better and brighter for our children and our children's children. When we decide to work together instead of trying to topple or take down one another, we will see a shift in how far this country will go.
Yes.
Madam Deputy Speaker, Junkanoo is not just about the groups that rush on the street. It's about the Bahamian that feels the rhythm in their soul. So as we talk about governance and structure, let's also talk about ownership, representation, and access. Let's ensure that every island from Grand Bahama to Inagua has a voice in the rhythm that defines us. Let's create opportunities where our young people, the next generation of costume designers, musicians, and builders can study Junkanoo as a science, as an art, and as an economy. Imagine if our schools taught Junkanoo in depth, because I know we are currently implementing in-depth pattern designs, brass arrangement, and percussion engineering as a part of the national curriculum. Imagine if the next Bahamian global export wasn't just tourism, but culture itself. We say we love Junkanoo, but do we support the Junkanooer? We say we celebrate culture, but do we invest in the cultural worker? Yes. This act must be about empowerment and unity, not control. Everybody was bringing up the argument in the newspaper. You brought it up, but I'm going to show you. In the front line, Madam Deputy Speaker, if I may, says major groups to sit out of Junkanoo. This really disheartened me because, like I said, this must be about unity. It must be our culture structure, not chains. And if done right, it will take Bahamian creativity from Bay Street to Broadway.
Yes.
From Rawson Square to the world stage.
Yes.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I am very passionate about this because those who keep up with me on Facebook, you already know. I am Pride in Wilson for the youth, for the culture. Engleson is watching, the youth are watching, and they deserve to inherit a Bahamas that chooses collaboration over competition.
Yes.
Empowerment over ego.
We're talking sense, English.
Unity over division. Let us be the generation that chooses to rise together.
Yes.
Let us protect the culture, not with walls, but with bridges.
Yes.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the people of Engleson yield.
Thank you so much, Eggleston, for the word and the facts. As many.
Madam Deputy, just for a point of clarification, we talked about the newspaper article. We actually had it. We just didn't present it. He just presented it. So
Amen. Thank you so much, member. As many. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Central Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, before I continue my contribution, I would like to firstly extend my support and prayers to our regional neighbors, especially those from Jamaica, Haiti, Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, and Cuba, who have been devastated by Hurricane Melissa, and of course, right here at home with our islands in the Central and Southeast Islands. Moreover, in light of this being the last Friday in October 2025, I wish to salute all of the men and women who have fought, are still fighting, and are likely to fight breast cancer. Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise today as the proud representative of Central Grand Bahama to speak on a matter that touches the soul of our nation, the future of Junkanoo. The National Junkanoo Authority Bill 2025 is still out for consultation. And while it promises progressive transformation, we must examine its implications with clarity, most specifically for our family islands. Let me begin by acknowledging the vision behind the bill. Junkanoo is not just a parade. It is a historical heartbeat. It is the rhythm of our ancestors, the creativity of our youth, and the pride of our communities. The idea of establishing a permanent body to manage, promote, and develop Junkanoo year-round is bold, perhaps timely, and to some, perhaps necessary. There are clear advantages to this initiative. First, cultural preservation and expansion. This bill could mean more than just December and New Year's parades. It could mean workshops, festivals, and cultural educational programs that keep Junkanoo alive in our schools and communities throughout the year. It can mean economic empowerment, as this bill positions Junkanoo as a viable business venture. This opens doors for costume designers, musicians, choreographers, and artisans throughout the country to earn income, build brands, and export their talents. It is a chance to turn passion into profit. Thirdly, it creates national unity and global recognition. A centralized authority could possibly standardize support and promotion across all islands and ensure that the islands are not left behind through globalization and the showcasing of our culture internationally. However, Madam Deputy Speaker, again, with every opportunity, we must tread lightly. As the honorable members would have alluded before, on the drive this morning, I heard on the radio how so many of the Junkanoo groups are deciding to step back and abstain from participating in the parades. These groups form the very fabric of our society and what it is that means to be Junkanoo. This proves that there are challenges that we must confront. We must firstly look at equitable representation. We must ensure that the Family Islands have a real seat at the table. The draft bill mentions consultations with groups like Grand Bahama Junkanoo Corporation and also other associations. But we must ensure that this is not just merely symbolic. Family Islands need voting power, decision-making authority, and funding that reflects their contributions. They need resource allocations. We must advocate that the authority's budget is distributed fairly. Too often, the nation's capital becomes the epicenter of cultural investment, while islands struggle with limited funding, materials, venues, and training. We must guard against centralization that sidelines our local talent. Local autonomy versus national oversight. While structure is important, we must not lose the unique flavor of each island's Junkanoo. The authority must not become a bureaucratic gatekeeper that stifles creativity or imposes rigid standards, but rather, Junkanoo must remain alive through its grassroots. I concur with those who have shared that Junkanoo is indeed a cultural responsibility. But cultural responsibility means listening to the voices of those who have kept Junkanoo alive in the Family Islands and throughout the Bahamas for decades. Therefore, we must ensure that this bill provides guaranteed representation from each major Family Island on the authority's board that extends beyond the threshold of mere symbolism. We must ensure that it provides adequate and dedicated funding streams for Family Islands for their development, as well as the support for youth programs, apprenticeships, and cultural education on the islands. We must also ensure a commitment to preserve the distinct styles and traditions of each island's Junkanoo, both domestically and internationally. In closing, Madam Deputy Speaker, I support the spirit of this bill. However, I urge that all stakeholders, especially those from the Family Islands, to engage in close consultation with passion and with purpose. Junkanoo belongs to Bahamians, and its future and legacy must reflect the entire Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for North Andros and the Berry Islands.
Before I begin, Mr. Speaker, Just want to note that this is indeed a touchy topic, one that I know we all feel very strongly about.
Strongly is an understatement.
However, Mr. Speaker, fellow members of the National Youth Parliament, members and honorable member of the gallery, a pleasant afternoon. Today we stand not merely to debate a bill, but to discuss the very heartbeat of Bahamian culture, Junkanoo. This is not just music, rhythm, or a parade. It is the embodiment of our resilience, our unity, and our identity as a people. And so as we consider the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act, we are not just shaping policy. We are shaping how future generations will experience Bahamian pride. In 2023, Junkanoo achieved global recognition when UNESCO officially inscribed it on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. That moment was not just symbolic, it was historic. It reminded the world that Bahamian creativity deserves to be celebrated and preserved. But recognition alone is not preservation. Mr. Speaker, to truly protect Junkanoo, we must ensure that the structures we build around it, like this proposed authority, do not dim its spirit or silence its people. The government's introduction of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act aims to formalize the governance, regulation, and management of Junkanoo. On paper, it promises oversight, funding, cultural preservation, and island-wide collaboration. All very noble goals. However, we must ask ourselves, at what cost does structure come? Regulation must never become restriction. Oversight must never be overreach. Because while organization is needed, the heart of Junkanoo has always been freedom, artistic freedom, a community and cultural freedom. It would be remiss of me to ignore the concerns raised by many Junkanooers and cultural advocates. I fear that this act, if not carefully implemented, could dampen community participation, limit artistic expression, and create imbalance among Junkanoo groups, particularly those from smaller family islands or less funded communities. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo was born in our backyards, on the streets, and in the hearts of the extraordinary Bahamian people, not in boardrooms. Its governance must therefore reflect the voices of the people, not just the mandates of an institution. Transparency, fairness, and representation must be the pillars upon which this authority stands. This resolution calls for us, as youth leaders, to engage in open dialogue, to question, to listen, and to reimagine what a National Junkanoo Authority could truly mean. Not as a tool of control, but as a bridge between tradition and transformation. Let us envision an authority that uplifts every group, from the 4 straight shell Saxon superstars to the smallest family island rushes. One that provides equitable funding, invests in cultural education, and ensures that no artist feels unseen or unheard. Because, Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo belongs to all Bahamians, not to any one ministry, a committee, or corporation. If implemented wisely, this act can help us document our traditions, train young artists, expand tourism, and use technology to archive our creative history. Imagine a future where Bahamian students learn Junkanoo as an academic discipline, its music, its craft, its history, so that it lives on just not as a celebration, but as a curriculum of culture. But to achieve that, Mr. Speaker, we must start here, in this house, by ensuring in this House by ensuring that our recommendations uphold the spirit of every drum,
And just help yourself.
every cowbell, and every whistle. Mr. Speaker, let us remember, laws can preserve a practice, but only people preserve its soul. So as we deliberate this resolution, let us ensure that the National Junkanoo Authority becomes not a gatekeeper of culture, but a guardian of legacy, one that ensures Junkanoo continues to echo through Bay Street and beyond for centuries to come. I yield.
As many. Beautiful words, sir. Very beautiful. Yes, in this House. Chair recognizes the honourable member for Southern Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I were to sum up Junkanoo in one sentence, the greatest show on earth. But it's more than just a festival or a parade. It's simply not a spectacle. It's a symbol of who we are. It's so powerful that in 2023, UNESCO officially inscribed Junkanoo on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. That is not a small. The proposed National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act 2025 seeks to formalize the governance, regulation, and management of Junkanoo as a national institution. It aims to facilitate, preserve, and develop Junkanoo as both a cultural and commercial enterprise, while fostering collaboration among the islands. In essence, this act holds a bold step towards national stewardship, ensuring that Junkanoo is not merely celebrated, but also sustained. However, while the intent of the act is admirable, its implementation demands caution and care. We must ensure that in regulating Junkanoo, we do not unintentionally suffocate the very freedom that gives it life. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo was born from the spirit of liberation, as we all feel in our hearts, a space where Bahamians from every walk of life can express themselves through artistry, music, and motion. Today, it contributes significantly to our creative economy. The Ministry of Tourism estimates that our cultural festivals, led by Junkanoo, inject over $30 million annually into the Bahamian economy through ticket sales, hospitality, and tourism-driven spending. Yet, much of this value is lost without equitable systems of financial transparency and community reinvestment. The bill rightly establishes a National Junkanoo Authority Fund to manage all monies related to Junkanoo, including ticket sales, sponsorships, and government allocations. Nevertheless, oversight mechanisms must be clearly defined. Annual reports and audits, though required under Clause 29, are only as strong as they are in their enforcement. The cultural trust of the Bahamian people cannot be jeopardized by bureaucracy or political interference. Furthermore, under Clause 5, it proposes a 17-member authority with 6 ex-officio members. Representation from New Providence and Grand Bahama and the Family Islands is essential, but there's a twofold concern. Will every Junkanoo artist have a voice and a seat at the table? Junkanoo thrives on community participation, not on government control. As we build this framework, let us not turn parade leaders into petitioners and artisans into administrators. Mr. Speaker, Clause 10 provides for subcommittees from the Family Islands and Junior Junkanoo committees to research and have legal matters discussed. Ensuring inclusivity in management, but as well as commendable, the success of these structures depends not on their quality as well as their quantity. Each must be adequately funded, community-informed, and empowered to act without excessive central oversight. And in all of this, we must remember, culture is not a commodity.
to be commercialized without conscience. While Clause 4 promotes Junkanoo as a national cultural and commercial enterprise, we must not let profit replace purpose. The true wealth of Junkanoo lies in its ability to inspire, unify, and to educate future generations. According to the Department of Statistics, over 65% of Bahamians under the age of 30 participate in or Junkanoo annually. This is not just entertainment, it is education in identity. As such, this act must include clear provisions for youth engagement, creative training, and educational integration. Junkanoo, as we've all heard, should not live only on Bay Street, but in our schools, community centers, and classrooms across all islands. Mr. Speaker, if we are to build the Bahamian future with both mind and heart, then the stewardship of culture must be guided by integrity, inclusion, and innovation. Let this act not be the hand that controls Junkanoo, but the arm that lifts it higher, ensuring that drums of our ancestors continue to beat for generations to come. And like we always hear, the cowbells, the trumpets, and every dancer's step, there is a slight light of Bahamian resilience. And as we legislate for the future, we must do so not only as policymakers, but as protectors of the soul of our nation. Junkanoo is the greatest show on earth, but it's more than a show. It's felt in here, it's felt there, it's felt everywhere, beyond and abroad. Thank you, and as always, may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Carmichael.
Imagine, it's 3 a.m. on Boxing Day morn. The cowbells are clacking, the goat string drums are rolling, and the streets are trembling. Not from traffic, for once, but from the heartbeat of our people, the sounds of Junkanoo. Someone shouts, "It's showtime!" and the crowd erupts. And somewhere in that glorious chaos sits a child, eyes wide, hearts pounding, as the best Junkanoo group makes their way past. Mr. Speaker, fellow parliamentarians, and my good Bahamian people, good afternoon. That child was me. That moment, like countless others shared by Bahamians across generations, is why I stand here to support the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act. Because Junkanoo is not just a parade, it's our pulse, it's our protest, it's our pride. It is one place where you will find a banker, a fisherman, and a high school student dancing side by side, not for fame, but for love of country. It is more than a piece of legislation, it is a declaration, a bold step towards protecting, preserving, and propelling our Bahamian people forward. Yet, Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the cries of Junkanooers who struggle year after year with funding, coordination, and recognition. The passion is there, but so is the struggle. This act changes that. With establishing a statutory body, we ensure that Junkanoo is managed with transparency, consistency, and professionalism. For far too long, groups have worked in silos, facing unclear judging criteria, last-minute budget allocation, and inconsistent support. This bill provides structure, equity, and sustainability, a strong enough foundation to carry our culture forward. We are not replacing the spirit of Junkanoo. We are not replacing the spirit of Junkanoo. We are reinforcing its foundation. When UNESCO placed Junkanoo on the representative list for the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, that recognition was not just an honor, it was a responsibility The world is watching, and we are the stars of this show. Let's talk about jobs. Let's talk about industry. With proper structure, Junkanoo can become an economic engine. Costume makers, musicians, choreographers, sound engineers. These are not hobbies. These are careers. The authority can help create training programs, attract investments, and boost cultural tourism. Consider the young men and women in the shacks of Nassau Village, Over the Hill, and even in Fox Hill. Junkanoo gives them purpose. It teaches discipline, teamwork, and pride. And imagine what we can do with that. We can turn the passion of these people into sustainable livelihoods. And imagine the endless possibilities, the endless educational possibilities. Junkanoo workshops in schools. Students learning about the history of John Canoe, the artistry of costume design, the physics of sound, and the power of rhythm. Through education, we can ensure that our children do not merely just watch Junkanoo, but they understand it. So now, some may fear that this central authority will stifle our creativity or drown our community voices. But this act is not about control. It is about collaboration. The authority will include stakeholders from across various spectrums. Yes, we can revisit who has a seat at the table to include representatives from all family islands in the picture. Mr. Speaker, let us not leave Junkanoo to passion alone, but let us give structure. Give it the structure it deserves. Let us build an institution worthy of the culture that has built us. Let us honor the legacy of those who have danced before us and empower those who will dance after us. For when the drum rolls on Bay Street, when the cowbells clash and the horns cry out, that is not just noise. That is the Bahamas speaking. So long live Junkanoo, long live the Bahamian culture, and long live the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Centerville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on behalf of the proud constituency of Centerville in full support of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025. This legislation is not merely about parading feathers. It is about protecting, professionalizing, and propelling one of the greatest expressions of Bahamian identity into a structured, sustainable industry. Mr. Speaker, for far too long, Junkanoo has been treated as a seasonal festivity. 2 nights a year where we take the Bay Street or a parade route showcasing our culture, then pack it away until Christmas. What this government is saying through this bill is that Junkanoo is more than a parade. It is an industry, a heritage, and a vehicle for economic empowerment. Under the authority, Junkanoo will no longer be managed in fragmented pockets. It will be coordinated nationally with proper governance, funding, and a structure that ensures fairness, transparency, and opportunity across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and every family island. Mr. Speaker, this bill establishes the National Junkanoo Authority, a statutory board empowered to regulate, support, and develop Junkanoo at every level. The authority's purpose is threefold: to govern and promote Junkanoo as a year-round cultural and creative industry, to administer resources and grants equitably through the National Junkanoo Fund, and to protect the intellectual property of Junkanoo practitioners so that Bahamians retain and benefit from Bahamian culture. This is national building through culture. It is the institutional framework that ensures the next generation of Junkanooers, the designers, the musicians, the seamsters, carpenters, technicians, can earn, innovate, and exploit their craft with dignity. The authority will include representatives from New Providence, Grand Bahama, and every other family island, together with cultural practitioners, youth voices, and members of the private sector. This is inclusion at work, not exclusion.
Let me be clear, this bill does not erase the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence or any existing groups. It elevates them. It brings every island, every organization, and every Bahamian who loves Junkanoo into a coordinated national framework that ensures consistency, fairness, and professional management of our parades and festivals. Junkanoo is not just rhythm and color, it is economic opportunity. Thousands of Bahamians are involved in costume production, music, logistics, and sound engineering, and even tourism. With proper regulation and investment, the authority will create new jobs, support entrepreneurship, help convert cultural passion into generational wealth. Mr. Speaker, the economic benefits of Junkanoo must not remain seasonal or centralized. They must flow through the archipelago from Bimini to Anagua. Imagine Junkanoo workshops in Exuma, music programs in Eleuthera, youth design academies in Abaco, all supported under one national framework. This is the vision before us today. The authority will manage a national Junkanoo fund, subject to strict oversight and public reporting. I repeat, public reporting. No more backroom allocation or uncoordinated prize funding. Every dollar will be traceable, every grant transparent, every group accountable. By placing Junkanoo administration into a legally recognized authority, this government ensures that our culture is managed with the same professionalism and integrity as any other national industry. We have heard concerns that the bill may take Junkanoo out of the hands of the people. Let me make this abundantly clear. Junkanoo belongs to the Bahamian people. And this bill protects that ownership.
Yes, ma'am.
What we are doing is driving Junkanooers to the legal, financial, and institutional support that they have long requested. This is empowerment, not control. We are building a bridge between community and government, between tradition and opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the National Junkanoo Authority Bill is more than legislation. It is legacy. It recognizes that Bahamian culture deserves national priority, permanent structure, and sustainable growth. We are setting the foundation for Bahamas, where culture is not an afterthought, but an economic engine, where our youth see Junkanoo not just as a performance, but as a profession, and not just as a performance, but as a profession, and where every Bahamian knows that the sound of a cowbell, the beat of a goatskin drum, and the rush of Bay Street are a part of a thriving national identity. Mr. Speaker, I believe that if we are truly to move our nation forward, we must work together to one common goal: the progress and preservation of our culture. Now, I understand that there are some concerns about the bill, but Mr. Speaker, we must also recognize that no piece of legislation is ever perfect. That is precisely why our parliamentary process allows for amendments, because we understand that progress is achieved through collaboration, not conflict. So what troubles me, Mr. Speaker, is that some persons who oppose this bill seem more interested in stifling the potential growth of Junkanoo in more than strengthening it. This government does not claim to have all the answers, but we do see where improvements can be made. Improvements can be made, and we are prepared to act. If there are any disagreements, let us not boycott the bill. Let us build on it. Let us come to the table, share ideas, and strengthen it together. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, nowhere in the bill does it state that Junkanoos will be excluded from the decision-making process. It would be unfair to assume the misrepresentation and intentions of the minister or the government. The truth is, the bill was created to give Junkanoos the structure and recognition it deserves. Not to take it away from the people, but to place it on a foundation where it can truly flourish. So that I say again, Mr. Speaker, let us move forward. Let us not fight the process. Let us shape it. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to lend my full support to this bill. Let us pass it, not just for Junkanoos today, but for the generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. As many Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Exuma and Ragged Island. Let's go, Bishop.
Mr. Speaker, my fellow youth leaders, members of the gallery, and my own constituency, the Exuma and the Ragged Islands. Again, good afternoon. You know, before we learn to walk, we learn to shake and whine. And before we learn to talk, we learn to blow that horn and toot that whistle. Junkanoo isn't just a parade or event. It's the heartbeat of this nation. The rhythm, creativity, and soul is who we all are mixed into one. Now, with Junkanoo officially recognized by UNESCO as one of humanity's tangible cultural heritage, it's clear that no one can deny what we've always known, that Junkanoo is powerful, moving, and most importantly, ours. The National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act aims to protect and formalize that, which is why I strongly believe it should be embraced and adopted. Shouldn't a massive cultural expression such as Junkanoo have more organization, structure, funding, and preservation? Exactly. And we can achieve all of that with the right execution. Of course, there will be some stakeholders or members that are concerned about the government possibly controlling its execution and design to the point of silencing community involvement and creativity. And that's a fair concern, because Junkanoo wasn't born out of a boardroom or government discourse. It was born in the streets, in the hands of many Bahamians who are your average Joe, with talent and vision, who were fortunate enough to turn hardship into art and struggle into sound. So as we debate this act, let's remember, yes, we can't regulate or control the rhythm and soul in Junkanoo. However, we can harness and facilitate its growth by providing it with the fuel it needs to thrive. Now, how does this act strengthen the structure and execution of Junkanoo? Good question. Through defined roles and responsibilities that ensure all the important details and the planning is carried out in a way that magnifies our cultural identity. This act not only serves as an aid to preserve our culture, it empowers the people behind Junkanoo to consider other avenues to boost its success and revenue. With the caveat of a review board to ensure fair funding across all islands, especially the Family Islands, we can begin to see a more diverse and expressive Junkanoo. It's also extremely important for us to be transparent through means such as official reports and publicly accessible data. We must also give our Junkanoo groups a real voice in the decisions that affect them. If artists, musicians, and community leaders have a seat at the table with government officials and leaders, just picture the impact that that direct teamwork can have. After all, who knows the spirit of Junkanoo better than the people who live it and build it from the ground up? From the costumes and the decorations under the streetlights to the many practices that happen until sunrise to make sure that each goatskin drum that beats represents the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, I'm always in agreement with the positive evolution of Junkanoo, especially when we can minimize the disadvantages. But simply put, the efforts, time, and money invested by many should not go unseen or unheard. And they should definitely not go undervalued. And if we can amplify those efforts officially through this bill, then why not? Yes. We must welcome the many innovations and ideas presented in a collective manner. In doing so, we can expand this cultural expression we call Junkanoo to greater lengths. And how can we do that? Digital streaming, local and international partnerships, and more global cultural showcases without losing our authenticity and identity. In the end, the National Junkanoo Authority Initiative can be a means of unity and assistance. But it can't be a governor. It must bridge the gap between tradition and tomorrow. If this is done correctly, it can strengthen our national pride and give all Bahamians access to new and brighter opportunities, and ensure that no matter who hears our music, even 100 years from now, will still feel the rhythm, feel that rhythm. We feel that reminds us who we are and what we are capable of. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo isn't just mere entertainment. It's our identity, our legacy, and most importantly, what makes all of us unique. So let's protect it, not lock it in law, but with law, by becoming a more organized, supported, and cooperative unit. Through understanding, fairness, and inclusion, and by fostering a stronger community and structure in our culture and identity through the means of this Junkanoo Act presented, and by making sure the details are carefully crafted to ensure that there's no discrimination and no division, we can more so proudly say next Junkanoo, see y'all on Bay Street. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Nassau Village.
Mr. Speaker, before I begin, as a military man, it's very hard for me to cut corners. So I want to take a brief moment and address the elephant in the room and put the member for Forks Hill on notice. Keep the Valley Boy's name out your mouth. 2468, that still don't give you a reason to hate. So sit small and tell your name Paul.
Honourable members, let's get back on task. You know, let's get back on task.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, let's get back on task.
When the first goatskin drum beats echo through Bay Street, something ancient and electric awakens in the Bahamian soul. That rhythm, that pulse is older than Parliament itself. It is our sound of survival, our celebration, and our story. It is Junkanoo, the living heartbeat of the Bahamas. And today, Mr. Speaker, we are not debating an act. We are deciding how that heartbeat will sound 50 years from now. The National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act is more than just legislation. It is a declaration that our culture is not just entertainment for tourists, but an economic engine and national treasure deserving of protection, structure, and strategic growth. Now, Junkanoo is not just merely a parade. It is not just feathers, glitter, and drums. Though, let's be honest, it's a little bit of all of that too. It is a community. It is creativity. It is competition and collaboration rolled into one. And yes, it is the only time of the year when you'll see grown men arguing passionately about whether Valley Boys or one family had the sweeter brass on base. But let's talk about facts, Mr. Speaker. According to the Ministry of Tourism, over 40,000 visitors attended Junkanoo parades in Nassau and Grand Bahama last year, generating an estimated 25 million in direct and indirect economic impact. Yet, much of that creative infrastructure behind those dazzling displays, the shacks, the storage spaces, the materials, remain underfunded, unregulated, and at times held together by passion, plywood, and prayer. That is why this act matters. The National Junkanoo Authority seeks to, one, standardize and secure funding for Junkanoo groups in transparent and equitable ways, also to preserve and document our traditions as an official part of our national heritage, and also to develop year-round Junkanoo economy turning our cultural genius into sustainable livelihoods. If implemented properly, Mr. Speaker, this authority could transform Junkanoo from a 2-night parade into a 365-day cultural industry. We could see costume designers becoming export-ready entrepreneurs, artisans training young talent, and a Bahamian creative economy that rivals the very best in the region. But, and this is a big but, Mr. Speaker, we must guard against the pitfalls of bureaucracy. Let us not create an authority that turns our vibrant grassroots of art into a pile of paperwork. The authority must serve the authority must serve the people of Junkanoo, not manage them from a distance. Therefore, I propose that we implement this act. We include a National Junkanoo Innovation Fund dedicated to youth mentorship, costume technology, and international cultural exchange. Because if a Bahamian can build a 10-foot phoenix out of cardboard and wire, imagine what they could create with proper support and opportunity. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the implementation of this act in its current iteration must be guided by one simple truth. Junkanoo is not just what we do, it is who we are. So when the drums roll and the horns sound, let us ensure the National Junkanoo Authority is not hiding behind red tape, but standing proudly amongst the people who would have placed them in these positions, covered in glitter, feeling the beat, and helping carry the spirit of Junkanoo and culture forward in the Bahamas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. Just for clarification, Music Makers is at the top. As many the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Kalani.
Mr. Speaker, imagine the streets alive with color, drums pounding through your chest, feathers flying in the wind, and the laughter and cheers of our people echoing across the islands. That, Mr. Speaker, is Junkanoo, the heartbeat of the Bahamas. I rise today as the Youth Member of Parliament for Killarney to talk about something that makes every Bahamian heart beat faster: our culture, our pride, our legacy, Junkanoo. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo is more than music. It's more than costumes, more than a parade. It is the soul of our islands. It is our history, our creativity, and our resilience rolled into one. In 2023, UNESCO put Junkanoo on the world stage, recognizing it as the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The world now sees what we have always known. Junkanoo is pure Bahamian magic. Mr. Speaker, magic alone is not enough. It must be managed, it must be nurtured, and it must be protected. On paper, this bill sounds like progress. However, will this authority uplift the people who make Junkanoo what it is, or will it drown it out in red tape? Mr. Speaker, let me get personal. My journey with Junkanoo started at Our Ladies in Junior Junkanoo. I remember pasting my first costume, learning the rhythms, and marching in the streets with my friends and classmates. Let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, the first step into the parade wasn't just for fun. It was a lesson in community, discipline, and pride. It taught me love for our culture that runs deep in my veins, and it reminded me why we must protect it. And now, we have the National Authority of the Bahamas, the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act. On paper, while it sounds good, oversight, funding, governance, we must ask ourselves, what does this really mean? Junkanoo thrives because it is community-driven. From Nassau to Abaco, from Grand Bahama to Long Island, every group, every dancer, every drumbeat brings its own heartbeat to the parade. We cannot let bureaucracy kill the spirit. Let's talk about money, Mr. Speaker, because we know that funding is necessary. But it must be fair, transparent, and reach every young Bahamian who has a dream of dancing in the streets or crafting the next jaw-dropping costume. Boy in Long Island, beating on a bucket should have the same access to resources as the young man in New Providence or Grand Bahama. Junkanoo belongs to every Bahamian, not just a select few. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo is not an institution. It is a movement. It is a heartbeat, and it is a celebration of who we truly are as Bahamians. The National Junkanoo Authority can guide our support, yes, but it must also empower our people, not limit them. It must celebrate creativity, not control it. So I ask this House, let us ensure that the next generation of Bahamians will still feel that thrill, that pride, that heartbeat in their chest when the drums hit, when the colors shine, and when the costumes come alive. Let us protect Junkanoo, but let us also set it free to grow, to inspire, and to show the world the true spirit of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, let us pass a bill that protects rhythm. Let us strengthen Junkanoo, not restrain it. Let us keep it loud, let us keep it proud, and most importantly, keep it Bahamian. May God bless the people of Killarney, and may He continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for the illustrious Golden Gates.
Testing 1, 2. First of all, I'd like to say for the Saxon fans in here, this is a Valley boy, okay? All right, all two. Junkanoo, the heart and soul of Bahamian identity. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, fellow Bahamians, good afternoon. I rise today in strong recognition of Junkanoo, the heartbeat of our Bahamian identity, the rhythm of our freedom, and a living expression of our culture. As a young boy growing up, going to Junkanoo every Boxing Day and every New Year's was the highlight of my year, because I would get to see the best and the greatest Junkanoo group take the street, the Valley Boys. From the costumes to the music, and especially the food, to the dancers, it was all so beautiful and in good fun. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo is more than a parade. It is the soul of the Bahamian people, our art, our music, our creativity, and our community. Today, as we debate the National Junkanoo Authority Bill, a bill designed to formalize the management, development, and preservation of this sacred tradition, this bill seeks to create a National Junkanoo Authority, a body responsible for overseeing Junkanoo parades, funding, education, and cultural preservation across all islands. Mr. Speaker, this bill has many commendable strengths that must be recognized and celebrated. First, it provides structure and sustainability. For the first time, Junkanoo will be guided by a statutory body with defined powers to manage finances, plan festivals, and coordinate national participation. The creation of National Junkanoo Authority Fund will ensure consistent funding for parades, youth programs, artisans, moving away from the uncertainty of last-minute sponsorships. Second, it promotes education and youth involvement. The bill mandates a junior Junkanoo committee to develop and manage parades for school-age children, nurturing creativity, teamwork, and discipline. It also empowers the authority to provide academic, technical, and vocational grants to persons studying Junkanoo-related fields. This ensures that our young people don't just dance to the rhythm, they understand it, preserve it, and innovate within it. Third, the bill recognizes Junkanoo as an economic and cultural industry. It directs the authority to commercialize Junkanoo, responsible fostering entrepreneurship through Junkanoo products, merchandising, and tourism partnerships. In short, it treats Junkanoo not just as a celebration, but as a driver of national development. However, Mr. Speaker, while the intent of this bill is noble, we must acknowledge some concerns. First, there's the concerns of over-centralization. The authority, as proposed, has significant power concentrated in the hands of the minister as a 17-member board appointed primarily by the government. There is a potential duplication, slow decision-making, and administrative overload. This could weaken community autonomy and risk political interference in cultural matters. Second question remains about the financial transparency. While the bill establishes a fund, it does not clearly outline independent auditing mechanisms or public disclosures for how funds are allocated to different groups. Without clear safeguards, the same larger groups may continue to benefit disproportionately while emerging or formerly island groups struggle to access these resources. The importance of fairness and trust in this cultural institution, transparency must be granted. To strengthen this bill, I propose 3 key improvements. 1, we must introduce greater community representation. Let the Junkanoo groups, youth council, and cultural educators elect members of the authority to ensure that the decision maker reflects the voices of those who build, dance, and drum for this culture. 2, mandate annual public financial disclosures. The authority should be required to publish detailed reports on funding, sponsorship, and expenditure to ensure accountability and equal opportunity for all Junkanooers, big or small. 3, strengthening the youth and education mandate. Beyond junior Junkanoo, we must establish partnership with schools, the University of the Bahamas, and vocational institutes to integrate Junkanoo studies into formal education, covering music, design, history, and entrepreneurship. This will ensure that Junkanoo becomes both a cultural and an academic discipline. Mr. Speaker, the future of the Junkanoo depends on the youth. They are the next generation of builders, drummers, dancers, and designers. This bill, if refined, can empower them to inherit a Junkanoo that is not only vibrant and authentic, but also sustainable and globally recognized. Let us not forget, Junkanoo was born in the struggle for freedom. It grew from the creativity of a people who turned hardship into harmony and labor into art. As we legislate for its future, let us do so with the same spirit of unity, pride, and resilience. In the words of the late Honorable Vaughn Miller, may Almighty God, Yahweh Elohim, continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and make wealth common. Mr. Speaker, the chair for Golden Gates yields.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. As many...
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
That's all right, honey. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Marco City.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I rise again today on behalf of the hard-working and creative people of Marco City to speak to you on a bill that beats the rhythm of our nation's very soul, the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo is not just an event. It is emotion. It is identity. It is the sound of freedom echoing through our streets for generations to come. It is what turns crepe paper into art, rhythm into unity, and struggle into joy. Junkanoo is the pulse of our people, in every rock, crevice, aisle, and key. Mr. Speaker, for all its beauty and brilliance, Junkanoo, like all historical, cultural mainstays, can and must be improved with time. That is what this bill seeks to do, to give Junkanoo a home in law, a framework for growth, and a future that respects its past. But let us be clear, Mr. Speaker, this bill cannot just be about rules and regulations. It must be about respect and representation. Because if we are not careful, we could take something born into the hearts of our people and bury it under layers of political restrictions. Mr. Speaker, this legislation proposes to establish the National Junkanoo Authority, a statutory body charged with developing, promoting, and protecting Junkanoo across the Bahamas. It will manage funding, training, cultural preservation, and global outreach. The goal is lofty, to protect and grow our national treasure. But I stand here to say structure must never strangle spirit. Junkanoo was born from a people who found freedom in rhythm, expression in color, and hope in sound. As we move forward, we must make sure this authority empowers, not controls, uplifts, not dictates. Mr. Speaker, the bill's creation of a central authority is an opportunity, but it is also a test. It must be transparent, it must be fair, and it must be inclusive. No Junkanoo group, whether large, small, or family island-based, should ever feel left behind or underfunded. Every group, every island, and every young Bahamian who dreams of rushing should see themselves reflected in this authority. Let us not forget, Mr. Speaker, this is a multi-million-dollar industry. Junkanoo is both culture and a business. Costume design, music production, tourism, food, art, and storytelling. It is time we recognize it as a serious economic driver and invest in it like one. If managed correctly, the National Junkanoo Authority can be a key foundation for cultural entrepreneurship, helping artisans patent their designs, musicians export their sound, and young creatives turn their passion into income. Imagine Bahamian-made Junkanoo costumes displayed in museums across the world. The possibilities are endless when culture meets commerce. It is understood, Mr. Speaker, that with great power comes great responsibility. We must build strong guardrails for transparency, and this authority must report to the people. We require clear audits, published accounts, and open meetings. Junkanoo belongs to the nation, and the nation has the right to know how its money, its culture, and its identity are being managed. As a young Bahamian, I see a clear path forward. Treat Junkanoo as both a national duty and an economic opportunity. It is time we professionalize our culture without sterilizing it. Junkanoo is who we are. If we lose it, we lose ourselves. Mr. Speaker, this is the truth. This bill must therefore protect Junkanoo's soul, not just its structure. As the representative for Marco City, I have seen firsthand how Junkanoo transforms communities. In Grand Bahama, it brings people together after storms and hardship. It teaches teamwork, discipline, and pride. It is the one thing that can make a neighborhood forget its differences and dance together under one rhythm and one sound. So yes, I support the spirit of this bill, but I also urge that as it moves through committee, we refine it to ensure fair representation, open governance, and that artistic freedom remains at its core. Let us create an authority that doesn't own Junkanoo, but serves it. Because Junkanoo is not the government's to keep, it is the people's to live. Mr. Speaker, this bill gives us a chance to honor that story. Let us build an authority worthy of the art of Junkanoo, the people that Junkanoo, and the ancestors that made Junkanoo a parade for all of us to enjoy today. If this bill is to pass, let it not just regulate Junkanoo, let it invigorate and maintain its vigor for generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for South and Central Andros.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on behalf of the great people of South and Central Andros to speak about an act to establish the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas, to which we support. When the drums beat on Bay Street and the cowbells start to shake, something ancient stirs in every Bahamian heart. It's not just music, it's memory, it's identity, it's Junkanoo. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo is more than a parade. It's the sound of survival. It was born from a time when enslaved Africans carved joy out of suffering,
when freedom was celebrated in rhythm long before it was written in law. Junkanoo in the Bahamas is not ordinary, it is extraordinary. But when something becomes extraordinary, Mr. Speaker, it must also be protected. This is what this act claims to do. It proposes to familiarize the governance, regulation, and management of Junkanoo by creating an authority body, the National Junkanoo Authority. This authority would oversee parades, funding, cultural preservation, and collaboration across all islands. On paper, it seems promising. But we, the young people of this Parliament, must ask, protected by whom and for whom? Because Junkanoo has always belonged to the people. The rushers, the seamstress, the brass players, the designers, the ones who work all night and still show up to work the next morning with glue on their fingers and glitter in their hair. Junkanoo has never been a government program. It has been a people's movement. So, as we discuss this act, we must guard against any attempt to take the People's Festival and turn it into an institution that serves bureaucracy instead of culture. Mr. Speaker, many stakeholders have expressed concern. They ask whether the act could limit community participation or artistic freedom, whether funding will truly be fair and transparent, whether small family island groups will have the same voice as large Nassau-based organizations, and most importantly, whether decisions about Junkanoo will continue to reflect the spirit of the rushers or the signatures of the administrators. These are not small questions. They cut to the heart of what it means to govern culture. How do we balance preservation with freedom? How do we structure something that was born unstructured, that thrives on creativity, competition, and guess what? Chaos. How do we protect the legacy of Junkanoo without caging it? Mr. Speaker, throughout the region, we can learn from others. Trinidad and Tobago has its Carnival Commission. Barbados has the Crop Over Festival Committee. Jamaica has the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission. Each of these bodies face the same challenge: how to give national festivals structure without losing their soul. Some succeeded, some struggled. We in the Bahamas have the opportunity to learn from those lessons and get it right. The goal should not be just to control. It should be collaboration. Not just regulation, but representation. The Junkanoo Authority, if done right, could become a bridge, one that connects government support with grassroots energy. It could ensure consistent funding, training for artisans, and cultural documentation, so that the next generation not only rushes, but understands why they rush. Mr. Speaker, imagine the Bahamas where every island has its own thriving Junkanoo community, supported and trained through this authority. Imagine if young artists in my constituency of South and Central Andros could access funding and mentorship to carry on this legacy. Imagine a digital archive preserving the history of our greats, like Percy Francis, Winston Gus Cooper, and countless others who shaped this art form. This is what we should aim for, not just preservation, but empowerment. But to achieve that, transparency must be the foundation. Funding must be equitable. Decision-making must include representation from all islands, all groups, all age brackets, including the youth. Because we, the young people of the Bahamas, are not just observers of the culture. We are its future custodians. Mr. Speaker, I urge that as we implement this act, we do not silence the very voices that make Junkanoo what it is. Let this authority not become a wall, but a window, one that allows every Bahamian to see themselves in the rhythm of our national story. And so, I end with this challenge to my fellow youth parliamentarians. What kind of authorities do we wish to create? One that commands from the top, or one that empowers from the ground up? Will we make Junkanoo a government file or keep it a living fire? Mr. Speaker, in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, a nation's culture resides in the heart and in the soul of its people. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo resides in the hearts and the souls of the Bahamian people. Let us put in place now the proper governance to ensure that it stays with us for generations and generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Almost there, folks. As many the Chair recognizes the representative for Disabilities and Inclusion.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, many Bahamians are delusional.
Wow, strong statement.
It is to the fact that they have no culture or heritage. That is until they leave home and realize the food they're eating isn't seasoned properly. Or they find themselves explaining what they meant by cheapest with a come earlier dread to their colleagues. Not finding the supplies for a bush tea when they sick like a dog and need it the most. Or regretting not learning straw plaiting from Grammy when they ready to start their side hustle. And don't even get me started on the Bahamians being the ultimate beach snobs when we visit other people's countries. My fellow Bahamians, what I have just described to you are all parts of our culture. This is our shared knowledge and our heritage, which is our legacy. It is what makes us belong. It nurtures our values, and it has commercial importance. Boxing Day is around the corner, and I'm pulling for the best group. Mr. Speaker, I beg your leave in some minor partisanship. I'm pulling for the Saxons. Okay.
I liked you, Honourable Member.
Now, make some noise if you ride for the Valley. If you root for Roots, it's your time. Okay. What about Rising with Genesis? All right, who laughed, who laughed? Okay, if you're all under one family, make some noise.
Yes, yes.
All right. I see it decided to get quiet after the Valley and Saxon. All right. But regardless of our family feud, we collectively take pride in our history, craft, music, labor, and most importantly, coming out on top. Now, no matter what side of the fence you're on, we cannot ignore the threats that face our tangible and intangible cultural heritage. More specifically, I am talking about the times that we've been taken advantage of in this nation, allowing others to destroy, to exploit, to extract our natural and cultural products for their commercial gain, and we make not a dime. We've seen this through archaeological site destructions from private developers, commercial salvaging from maroon shipwrecks, the historical looting and removal of Lucayan artifacts from our cave sites, and the extraction of the natural resource and indigenous knowledge for patents in areas of medicine and business marketing. But fortunately, all hope is not lost. through the ratification of 3 cultural conventions, instating Junkanoo as an intangible cultural heritage site. I know that's been said numerous times today, but I had to say it. The amendment of the Antiquities, Monuments, and Museums Bill of 2023, and the Bahamas' current consideration of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025. The Bahamas has made its position clear: a unified institutional framework that is designed to protect, to preserve, and to promote the culture and heritage, what is intended to lead to national prosperity. But to have this intended effect, the bill must ensure that it aggregates the existing silo operations of resource, education, and museum facilities, particularly in reference to the role of the Antiquities, Monuments, and Museums Corporation. In Title IV, Functions of the Authority, Part 1J, it is suggested that this point is integrated and strengthened in the ongoing efforts of the recently established National Museum of the Bahamas that was opened in January of this year. Furthermore, there is no mention of the intent of the impact of Junkanoo research outside of education, especially when it comes to commercial use. This has to be considered for profitability of a current industry that does not directly profit, but instead relies on seed funding year after year. Now, I said direct. There are indirect benefits, I must acknowledge that. But the point stands the same. It's not profitable directly. Additionally, in relation to the revenue earning potential of Junkanoo, it is important to discuss the legal framework of the protection and the patents of the creative intellectual properties, such as designs and music that can be transposed onto clothing and stationery or played at public events. Finally, since Junkanoo is the subject of a unified institutional framework that is designed to protect, to preserve, and to promote the culture and heritage, as well as generate national wealth, it is important to have the key performance indicators to measure our progress. Presently, there are indicators being considered in the Paris Agreement, Section 9, and the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 Agenda, Goal 11.4, which calls for the strengthening efforts to safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage, and 8.3, which calls to support our creativity and innovation, is of prime importance and consideration when adopting the bill. Mr. Speaker, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I wonder if you're still honorable. Honorable member, thank you so much. As many? Here we go. Chair recognizes the honorable member for Garden Hills.
Mr. Speaker, honorable youth parliamentarians, members of the gallery, good afternoon, everybody. And, Mr. Speaker, right before I begin, I would like to apologize to the members of Mount Moriah, Fox Hill, and Golden Gate for forgetting to acknowledge this constituency. As we know, Mr. Speaker, there's no greater constituency like Garden Hills. But, Mr. Speaker, I rise to show my support for the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo, as stated by many of my colleagues here today, is not merely a parade. It is the heartbeat of our nation, a story of our people told through the choreography, color, and craft of our citizens.
and it has been rightly recognized in 2023 by UNESCO as an intangible cultural treasury of humanity. Today, with this bill, we have the opportunity to protect, promote, and elevate Junkanoo like never yet before. Mr. Speaker, I support this bill because it is done something that is long overdue, in my opinion. It gives Junkanoo a formal structure of governance. By establishing the authority as a statutory body, we will finally move beyond the patchwork of committees and corporations that too often work in solos. The bill creates one united authority with clear responsibility to preserve Junkanoo, promote it internationally, and manage it as both a cultural celebration and an economic driver. Mr. Speaker, in Section 4 and Clause 1 of the bill states that it promotes education initiatives through research, exhibitions, and school programs to ensure that our young people are taught the art and history of Junkanoo from early on. Also, in Section 4, Clause 1, it provides sustainable funding through the creation of the National Junkanoo Authority Fund, empowering the authority to collect donations, receive government allocations, and even borrow funds responsibly to support groups in preparation for parades. And most importantly, in Section 4, Clause 1, Mr. Speaker, it positions Junkanoo as both a cultural and tourism asset, inviting collaboration between the authority, the Ministry of Tourism, the private sector, and those abroad to expand its international presence. Mr. Speaker, these are not just administrative functions. These are visionary steps that could finally and continue to give Junkanoo its rightful place, not only in our hearts, Mr. Speaker, because it's already there, but also within our economy, in our school, and even the world stage at large. Now, Mr. Speaker, while I mostly stand in agreement with this bill, if I may, there are some slight recommendations I believe that can strengthen it. Firstly and foremost, I believe that we should enshrine greater community participation. Junkanoo wasn't born in the streets like some of my fellow colleagues stated. It was born in the streets, not in the shallow, hollow halls that we are today. Section 5 of this bill, Mr. Speaker, lays out the composition of the authority, including representatives from key institutions and Junkanoo organizations. However, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the act can go just one step further. I believe by garnering formal consultation and voting input from smaller groups and independent artists, specifically from those from the Family Islands, Mr. Speaker, that decisions reflect the diversity of the entire Junkanoo Committee. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I suggest we strengthen financial transparency mechanisms. As later in the bill in Section 29, it already requires audited reports. But I believe, as stated by the member of Golden Gate and Marco City, that we can make these audits public and clear annually to ensure that all funding, prize allocations, and grants are distributed fairly. Transparency, Mr. Speaker, is not only in building trust, but it also protects the credibility of the authority and its leaders. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I believe that we should safeguard artistic freedom. The authority's power to regulate parade rules and set cultural standards, though it may be controversial, must be balanced by respect of innovation because Junkanoo thrives, Mr. Speaker, on creativity. Regulations should therefore encourage originality while maintaining respect for our cherished cultural tradition. Mr. Speaker, I believe that these enhancements I stated just now fortify an already sound bill. And as I come to my conclusion, I am proud to stand here and support this bill, Mr. Speaker, even though many may not agree with me. It represents progress, vision, and national pride. Junkanoo has always been a gift for the Bahamas, Mr. Speaker, and we have shared this gift to the world. This bill ensures that the gift is preserved, nurtured, and celebrated for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, if you would join me and help me with all the members in this hallowed hall to pass this bill, not only for the government, but for the heartbeat of our very dear nation. May God bless, Mr. Speaker, the residents of Garden Hills. May God bless the youth of our nation. And above all, Mr. Speaker, may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The member of Garden Hills yields the floor.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. Try saying that 5 times fast. Yeah, there you go. All right. As many Chair recognizes the honorable member for Pinewood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A very pleasant good afternoon once again to my youth parliamentarian colleagues and the distinguished guests of our gallery. Now, before I begin, I would like to start off with a scripture. For Mr. Speaker, this discussion truly needs it. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verses 40, it says, "Let all things be done decently and in order." For there comes a moment in every nation's history when we must pause, not to look forward, not to look back, but to look home. Home, Mr. Speaker, sounds like that goatskin drum at 6 a.m. on Bay Street. It smells like that paste and crepe paper under the moonlight. It feels like pride as the horns cry out and the crowd screams, "Who are we?" And they say the best group of all, the Saxons. That is Junkanoo. Not just a festival, not just a parade, but the very heartbeat of Bahamian identity. It is the rhythm that carried us from slavery to sovereignty. It is our ancestors speaking through art, motion, and music, reminding us that freedom, even when beating down, us as Bahamians rise again dancing. It is in this regard that I rise to discuss this authority that I proudly agree with, may I add, that defines us most. For it seeks to formalize, regulate, and preserve the spirit of Junkanoo. The pride that was once whispered through cowbells now roars across generations. And before I go on, Mr. Speaker, you know, I said before in my first speech this morning, I read to understand. And in understanding this bill, I listened closely to my fellow youth parliamentarians as they stated their opinions on this matter. And I would like to say to those opposing, in consideration with the family islands and their needs, I would say that the family islands need this Junkanoo bill the most, if not more than New Providence. Too often, the spotlight, as you said, as the member of North Abaco said, shines only on Bay Street, while the rich traditions, talents, and creativity of family island Junkanoo groups are overlooked and underfunded. A Junkanoo bill would ensure that every island, from Inagua to Abaco and from Andros to Cat Island, receives the resources, training opportunities needed to grow their local festivals and preserve their unique cultural expressions. Now let's look at this from a global standpoint. Let's move past the national landscape. In 2023, as Madam Deputy Speaker mentioned so eloquently, it says that the UNESCO inscribed Junkanoo on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, finally giving the world a glimpse of what Bahamians have always known, that our culture is not just alive, but it is eternal. So as we celebrate this global recognition, let us not forget the true power of Junkanoo. I did not say that it has ever come from a law or institution, for I know that it has always come from the people, and I will always stand with the people. From the father who spends his nights bending wire and gluing feathers together, and from the mother who wakes her children up before the sun rises to see the best Junkanoo group, of course, again, the Saxons. That, Mr. Speaker, beats with Junkanoo. The National Junkanoo Authority Act, as proposed, carries noble intentions to safeguard our culture and to ensure transparency, to organize and uplift. I support this vision given by the government because, yes, Junkanoo deserves structure, respect, and national coordination. I believe that this act is not here to take away from the people, for I will never support an act as against the people. But it is here to strengthen the people's voice. It is a community by our government to ensure that Junkanoo is managed with the same excellence, transparency, and national pride that is inspired for generations. For too long, Junkanoo has been carried on the shoulders of passionate groups and dedicated communities with limited resources. Let's get them those resources. This bill represents a new dawn, one where the government stands alongside those communities to provide funding, training, and opportunity. One where every artist, every musician, and every builder, and every dancer is given the platform that they deserve. As I conclude, my fellow youth parliamentarians, some of them mentioned talking about the fire and the flames. But this creativity of this bill will ignite it. It will give Junkanooers across every island the tools to make their art even greater, their parades even brighter, their parades even more golden. Their legacy will be stronger. The National Junkanoo Authority promises not only preservation, but progress. It will create those opportunities for young Bahamians to study the craft, to innovate new designs, and to manage the business of culture, transforming passion into profession. It will open the doors for Bahamian creativity to shine internationally, while ensuring that the soul of Junkanoo remains authentically ours. Mr. Speaker, this act is about partnership. It's about unity. It's about saying to the world that the Bahamas is serious about protecting what is ours. It is about ensuring that 100 years from now, when that goat skin drum still beats at 6 a.m., when our children will know this sound was preserved, not because of a vision, but because we stand up and fought to protect it. And when that day comes, and when that music starts, and when the horn cries out, the costumes will burst through Bay Street once more, and we will hear the sound of celebration. We will hear the sound of legacy, which is why, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, because it ensures that Junkanoo will never, ever fade. It will never fail, and it will never flourish. It will flourish. Sorry. Let's not get confused. It ensures that the heart of our culture will continue to beat strong and united for generations to come. Because as long as there are Bahamians, there will be Junkanoo. And as long as there is Junkanoo, there will be pride. And as long as there is pride in this nation, there will be a Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, the great constituency of Pinewood Gardens yields the floor.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah, that's some power. We definitely needed that. All right. Thank you. As many, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Pine Ridge.
Good afternoon once again. Mr. Speaker, I rise today as a proud and passionate member for Pine Ridge constituency, protecting and empowering Bahamian culture for our generation. Mr. Speaker, as a proud young Bahamian from Pine Ridge, I rise in strong support of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act because this is more than a law. It is a legacy. Junkanoo is the heartbeat of our nation, a rhythm passed down through generation that deserves protection through structure, funding, and national recognition. By formalizing Junkanoo under a national authority, we ensure that our culture is not left to chance, but guided with purpose. This act empowers young Bahamians like me to inherit not just the music and color, but the management, innovation, and global promotion of Junkanoo as a world-class cultural institution, creating opportunities for youth and the orange economy. Mr. Speaker, the establishment of the National Junkanoo Authority will open new doors for young people across our island, not just as performers, but as designers, musicians, entrepreneurs, and cultural ambassadors. This act lays the foundation for training, funding, and partnership that can transform Junkanoo into a sustainable creative industry. Junkanoo, it means that a young costume maker in Pine Ridge could one day design from an international stage. A young drummer could teach, tour, and inspire beyond the Bahamas. We are talking about turning passion into profession. That is the future this act can deliver. Unity, accountability, and national pride. Mr. Speaker, this act does not divide, it's unified. It ensures that all Junkanoo groups from Grand Bahama to Inagua have a voice under one transparent system with proper oversight and representation. We strengthen trust, ensure fair funding, and preserve the spirit of competition that keeps Junkanoo vibrant. This is about building a future where every Bahamian youth can say, Junkanoo belongs to us. By supporting this act, we are choosing national pride over politics, progress over fear, and unity over division. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I stand firmly in support of the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act because I believe that when we invest in our culture, we invest in our future. Junkanoo is more than a parade. It is a promise, and with this act, the promise will echo for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, I rest.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many Chair recognizes the Honorable Member Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
Mr. Speaker, I promise I won't keep you long because. But today I rise again as the youth representative for the dedicated and hard-working constituency of Kid Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, and to lend my full support to the creation of the National Junkanoo Authority Act. Yes, sir. As Colossians 3:23 reminds us, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as for working for the Lord. Yes. Mr. Speaker, Junkanoo is the heartbeat of the Bahamas, and no one can deny the passion and the heart that our people put into every note, every feather, and every step down the street. Yes, sir. Junkanoo is more than a parade. It is a celebration of freedom, creativity, and identity that has been passed down through generations. Its roots trace back to John Canoe, an African warrior who fought for freedom and refused to let his spirit be broken. And that spirit lives on in every whistle, every drum, and every cowbell. John Canoe reminds us of where we come from and how powerful we are when we come together as one people united in love and service. The John Canoe National Authority Act seeks to protect, organize, and strengthen that legacy.
By creating a structured body, we can ensure that funding is distributed fairly and that young artists in San Salvador get to learn the craft and that the cultural future of Junkanoo is secured. It would also help us maintain our international recognition now that Junkanoo has been added to UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage. Mr. Speaker, I am aware of the ongoing discussion between the government and the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence regarding this proposed authority. Some members of the JCNP has expressed fears that the new legislation could reduce independence of Junkanoo groups and hand too much control to the government. But this act is not about taking control. It is about creating structure, fairness, and opportunity. The goal is to modernize Junkanoo, improve communication, and ensure that this national treasure continues to grow in unity, not division. Mr. Speaker, schools will play a major role in keeping Junkanoo alive. Through programs like Junior Junkanoo, students learn about teamwork, discipline, and cultural pride. I spoke with a teacher whose schools participate every year, and she said that while the experience is rewarding, it is also challenging. Each student must pay a small fee to take part, but some children simply cannot afford it. The school and sponsors try to cover the rest, but it is never enough. Mr. Speaker, some of the most talented students are left out, not because they lack passion, but because they lack resources. A National Junkanoo Authority Act could help by providing funding and support directly to schools so that no student is left behind. This is why I also believe Junkanoo should have a stronger place in our national curriculum. It should not only be celebrated once a year, but taught as a part of our cultural education. From the history of Junkanoo to costume making, music, and performance. Mr. Speaker, if we can teach students about Shakespeare and Mozart, we can also teach them about Gus Cooper, Percy Viola Francis, and the artistry of Bahamian craftsmanship. The authority could work hand in hand with the Ministry of Education to make that happen. Imagine what this could mean for the youth of our nation. Young Bahamians could be trained in costume design, music production, and event management, turning their talents into lifelong careers. Junkanoo could become a year-round industry, not just a seasonal celebration. Mr. Speaker, I recently spoke with a Junkanoo participant who said, and I quote, "Every December, I save what little I have just to make sure my group has feathers and drums. It is not about the money, it's about the pride," end quote. And that, Mr. Speaker, is the spirit we must preserve and keep National Junkanoo Authority, and the National Junkanoo Authority can help us do just that by providing support, resources, and proper organization. If we truly love Junkanoo, then we have to care for it, plan for it, and pass it on the right way. This authority is not here to take away what makes Junkanoo special. It is here to make sure that when the drums beat and the horns blow, every Bahamian, young or old, rich or poor, can be a part of it, proudly saying this is who we are. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and if I don't address this honorable chamber no more for the year, may the good Lord who never goes on holiday bless and keep you, Mr. Speaker, and this honorable chamber as we strive to make this nation, our nation, a better place and keep our national pride alive.
To pick up, piggyback on you, honorable member, it is well. It is well. Hey. Oh boy, thank you. So, okay, as many. Chair recognizes the honorable member for Seabreeze.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished members of the Youth Assembly and guests, good afternoon. I rise today to address the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025. This legislation, while well intended to celebrate our culture, is in its present form a profoundly misguided and financially dangerous step for the Bahamas. And since I too read to understand, upon reading this bill, I realize it is a bill full of misplaced priorities, excessive costs, and unnecessary bureaucracy. We all agree that Junkanoo is the premier cultural celebration of the Bahamas. It is our freedom, it is our cultural expression, and a national treasure. But Madam Deputy Speaker, a national treasure that is already vibrant and successful does not need a massive year-round bureaucratic to sustain it. Madam Deputy Speaker, my deepest concern is the astronomical financial commitment this bill places upon the Bahamian people. This legislation establishes a permanent corporate entity. It gives the authority power to appoint or employ a chief executive officer and a treasurer, along with other additional staff on a permanent basis. This overhead is an astronomical and unnecessary financial commitment for a country already facing fiscal challenges. Furthermore, Clause 18 directly mandates that the authority shall, within 5 years of the commencement of this act, establish a contributory or non-contributory pension scheme. This is not an option. It is a permanent, long-term liability for the consolidated fund. And how is this new liability funded, you may ask? Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, if we look to Clause 24, the Act mandates that the authority's annual budget be allocated to the authority in 2 installments. This ties up the public funds into a predictable, non-discretionary liability, funds that could otherwise be directed to more urgent social or youth development needs. This bill is not fiscally responsible. It is an unaffordable liability. Beyond the cost, Madam Deputy Speaker, this bill risks replacing community-led success with ministerial control. Clause 5.1 clearly dictates the composition of the board. The authority shall consist of 17 persons appointed by the minister and only 6 ex officio members, for a total of 23. This concentration of power in ministerial appointments effectively turns an independent authority into a political extension of the government, allowing central control over financial resources and, more worryingly, creative direction. The voice of existing, proven Junkanoo practitioners, such as the chairman of the JCNP, is relegated to a single minority seat on this 23-member body, as noted in Clause 5, 2B. Most concerningly, the authority's functions granted far-reaching powers that infringe upon the creative domain of the Junkanoo groups. Clause 4 grants the authority the power to regulate, coordinate, and conduct all Junkanoo activities throughout the Bahamas. And Clause 4L gives it the function to develop, maintain, and review rules, regulations, and procedures for the conduct of Junkanoo activities throughout the Bahamas. Madam Deputy Speaker, this power to dictate rules, standards, and procedures risks stifling the raw, organic creativity that has always defined the festival. Junkanoo is a competition of innovation, not compliance. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, this bill is the clearest possible evidence of misplaced priorities in a time of national crisis. The effort to create this authority has generated immense bureaucracy. Clause 10, number 6, lists a dizzying array of unnecessary committees, including, and I might just keep going, executive committee, a finance committee, a parade management committee, a rules committee, a penalties committee, a judges committee, and on and on and on, for a total of at least 21 permanent committees, not judging the ones that are not permanent. This is an excessive administrative structure built to manage an event that is already successful. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Junkanoo Festival is thriving. Our youth, however, face a crisis of violence, crisis of unemployment, and they have urgent social needs. resources, both financial and the focus of our cabinet ministers, are finite. The immediate and pressing issues facing Bahamian youth should be absorbing the government's entire attention and budget. I urge this government and I urge my colleagues to pause this bill. We must redirect this level of focus, redirect this level of funding towards strengthening our existing youth institutions, rather than creating a costly new corporate body for a flourishing cultural event. And with that, I yield the floor, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much, Member for Seabreeze. As many, the chair recognizes the honourable member for Marathon.
Good afternoon. Good evening. All right, living good then. Madam Speaker, members of the gallery, youth parliamentarians, as we wave flags around the assembly, or papers perhaps, I wish to wave my own. An address made by the National Junkanoo Committee, dated October 31st, 2025. Time, 3 p.m. Heading, Public Clarification Statement. Reading, contrary to reports, the major Junkanoo groups have not communicated any decision to withdraw from the upcoming Boxing Day or New Year's Day parades. In fact, Junkanoos across multiple organizations are currently in their shacks, building, designing, and preparing to bring their music, costumes, and creativity to bay. Before the light hits Bay Street, before the brass sounds its first note, and before the crowd erupts, two straight Saxons. There are builders in the dark. They are the heartbeat of Junkanoo. Long before the parade begins, they are cutting, they are gluing, they are painting, and sweating through the night. No spotlight, no fanfare, just pride, creativity, and community. That is where Junkanoo begins, not on Bay, but in those shacks where ordinary Bahamians turn cardboard and paste it into art and dreams into motion. Madam Deputy Speaker, far too long, those builders have worked without structure. They've had to rely on goodwill instead of support, passion instead of policy. The National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Act changes that. It ensures that people who carry our culture, the builders in the shack, are finally respected, supported, protected, and some that knows their value. Clause 3 sets up National Junkanoo Authority. Some say, we don't need another authority. Junkanoo belongs to the people. But that's exactly why it matters. It gives people a voice. Ownership isn't taken away but shared. For generations, the builders in the shack have held up this tradition. Now the country holds them up in return. Mr. Speaker, Clause 4 shows what the authority will do. Coordinate parades, train artisans, preserve culture, and promote Junkanoo as both a national treasure and creative industry. Some think creativity can be managed, but that isn't about control. It's about empowerment. The shack can't keep building on magic on scraps. Builders need fair funding, training, and systems that match their dedication. Clause 5 forms a diverse board with voices from across the islands and institutions like UB, the ministry, and I have to say it, UNESCO. As my colleagues have mentioned, it's too many people. But however, Junkanoo is about unity, not speed. Every island has a voice. Every community has a say. The light of Junkanoo shines brightest when it's shared. Clause 11 allows local Junkanoo committees in the family islands. Some fear bureaucracy, but this gives islands the power to celebrate in their own way while staying connected to the national vision. The shack isn't just about Nassau. It's in Andros, Abaco, Exuma, Inagua. It's in every island. Clause 20 creates the Junkanoo Authority Fund. As a colleague mentioned, some groups will get all the money. But annual audits and transparency changes that. Builders will know exactly where support comes from and that it's fair. Trust grows when funding is fair. Trust grows when communities grow stronger with believing in us. Clause 10 forms a Joint Junkanoo Committee. Some doubt young people can't handle responsibility, but I present the young people here today. Just like older builders once passed in the shock, now we pass leadership and pride to the youth. Clause 4, Section 1, bring Junkanoo into the future with technology and media for parade management and promotion. Some fear tech skills training, but tech kills tradition. But it only helps the shock work smarter. Junkanoo has always evolved from paper and paste to glitter and light. Progress preserves culture for the next generation. Madam Deputy Speaker, this act isn't about taking control. It's about building a foundation under the feet of those who already carry our pride. The builders in the shock will still cut, paint, and sweat. The difference? Now they have respect, resources, and a system that lasts. This act honors the past while preparing for the future. It moves us from surviving to thriving. It ensures that the next generation doesn't start from scratch, but build on a foundation created by those who came before. As a young Bahamian representing Marathon, I support this act because it reflects who we are: hardworking, fair, and proud. The builders in the shock may never wear the crown, but they are why the stage exists. And with this act, they will finally get what they deserve: respect, representation, and a system built to last. When their hands build, our nation rises. When their light shines, our nation shines. The Bahamas will always shine with them. Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Fort Charlotte.
Madam Deputy Speaker, before I begin my address, as the last speaker for this honorable session, I seek to permanently set the record straight that the One Family Warriors will forever be the best Junkanoo group. Honorable members, and of course the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and my constituents of Fort Charlotte, there are few sounds in this world that can summon the soul of a nation. But when the drums roll, the whistles pierce, and the cowbells answer, the Bahamas itself awakens. Junkanoo is not a parade. It is our pulse. I rise in full support of the Junkanoo Cultural Heritage and Development Bill, a visionary piece of legislation that seeks not only to preserve a tradition, but to propel it into the future. Madam Deputy Speaker, Junkanoo was born in the shadows of struggle, yet it shines with the brilliance of resilience. It is the story of a people who took the fragments of oppression and fashioned from them the feathers of freedom. But despite its cultural majesty, our creative economy contributes less than 2% to our GDP, while other Caribbean nations, such as Jamaica and Trinidad, see over 5% from their cultural industries. Madam Deputy Speaker, it seems we have perfected the craft, but we forgot to perfect the business of the craft. This bill aims to change that narrative, to turn rhythm into revenue and creativity into a career. This bill's establishment of a National Junkanoo Development Authority represents a long overdue structure for sustainability. Through grants, training, and infrastructure, it will transform Junkanoo from a seasonal showcase into a year-round sector of national development. It empowers artisans,
costume designers, choreographers, musicians, and sound engineers, not merely to perform, but to prosper. Because, Madam Deputy Speaker, while national pride and good vibes are the beautiful result of Junkanoo, they do not pay for materials, to rent studios, or to feed families. Our artists pour their souls into this work. This bill gives them the framework to earn a living from their incredible, God-given talents, honoring their passion with tangible economic opportunities. Madam Deputy Speaker, I must pause here to acknowledge that this level of fundamental positive change can be unsettling for some. It is natural to feel protective of cherished traditions. However, we have seen recent public statements from valued cultural stakeholders, statements born, I believe, from a misunderstanding of this bill's core purpose. There is a fear that this bill is about exclusion, about replacing one entity with another. Let me be unequivocally clear. This legislation is not about replacement. It is about elevation. It is not about silencing any group. It is about providing a permanent national stage and a sound system for all groups. The very fragmentation and insecurity that leads groups to feel they must move on or create separate, independent events is the precise problem this bill is designed to solve. This bill ends the cycle of artists feeling beholden to temporary structures. It creates a permanent, funded, and fair framework. This framework ensures that no one is removed midway through planning, because the planning will be national, continuous, and stable. This brings me to my next point, Madam Deputy Speaker, which is that this legislation recognizes that Junkanoo's power lies in its inclusivity. It levels the playing field so that every group, from the one-family warriors to the smallest family island ensemble, has equal access to funding and opportunity. Because when the music starts, no Bahamian heart beats louder than another. Well, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, maybe it beats just a little bit faster when the Saxon see the one-family warriors. Bill, and for the purpose of national development, all heartbeats are created equal. The Inter-American Development Bank reports that the global creative economy is valued at over $2 trillion US. With this bill, the Bahamas positions itself to claim its rightful share, not by imitation, but through innovation rooted in authenticity. The bill envisions cultural heritage zones, transforming downtown Nassau and key family island districts into living museums of art, sound, and history, aligning perfectly with UN Sustainable Development Goal 11.4, which urges nations to protect and promote their cultural heritage. But beyond the numbers and policies, Madam Deputy Speaker, lies something sacred: identity. In a world increasingly defined by algorithms and artificial trends, Junkanoo stands as a declaration. We are still here, we are still vibrant, and we are still Bahamian. This bill is, therefore, not merely cultural legislation, it is a spiritual investment in nationhood. It is the answer to generations of artists who asked for more than just a parade. It is the structure our creative minds deserve. It secures for our children a future in which creativity is not a pastime, but a profession. It ensures that our rhythm does not fade beneath the noise of globalization, but roars with pride across the world stage. In my closing, honorable members, this bill reminds us that the true wealth of the Bahamas is not only found beneath our seas, but but within our souls. Let us enshrine our culture in policy, empower our artists with opportunity, and ensure that when the drums of Junkanoo beat, they echo through time as the sound of a nation in motion. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The resolution is agreed. The motion is carried. Further resolution? Adjournment. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Seabreeze.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I move that this House do adjourn.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved. It has been moved and seconded that this Youth House of Assembly do adjourn sine die. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. This Youth House of Assembly do adjourn sine die.